I mean, hello, 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 magical Donna. How are you?
Hello,
How are you? How are you?
I'm good.
Um,
How are you?
excited, excited. I'm good too. Got to bed a little late, but that's okay. All right, right on cue. Going live. Takes a little while. Facebook is a little bit slow with the stuff. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. What did you dream about, Donna? Hello, don't know who that is. Erica
Erica.
Jane. Brilliant, brilliant. Erica Jane. Yeah, fantastic.
Morning.
Morning, morning, morning. Hey, I saw somebody up very late last night. Got the
Yes,
notification. Say,
I
girl, you're supposed to be in bed.
we started to go to bed, and my mom. Every time my mom is here, we always stay up late talking. So we
ah,
were decompressing from our talk last night. So
brilliant, 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 brilliant. Oh, that's exciting. That's very exciting.
yeah,
Somebody else joining. Fantastic, fantastic. I'm just getting it set up. Hello, Sher. Hello, Sher. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Yeah, it'll take us a few moments. So in that decompression, Erica, did anything come in terms of just the overview? Well, okay, it takes a couple of minutes to get Facebook going and get all set up. So
yeah. We talked more about her. Well, so she was continuing to kind of talk about how she feels like she's in kind of stuck in a loop where she just she'll try something and it turns out to be a mistake and she comes right back to where she was before. So we were talking again about the kind of snakes and ladders concept, and that
wow,
just because you come back to the same situation, it doesn't mean that you're starting in the same place, because now you've learned that the path that you took takes you to a place that you don't want to be. So now you try a different path, and then if you come back again, then now you have more information. So you're not starting from zero. You're coming back, but with new information.
gotcha.
So we talked a lot about that.
Wow, wow, wow. That's very powerful. That's very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That entire concept of the ever evolving snakes and ladders.
Hmm.
That's kind of how I think that. In other words, just to recap it here, it's that we go up and down in terms of our learning and growing, or at least it appears that way, but it's not
Right.
actually so in reality.
Yeah.
Whenever we go down the snake, even if it takes us all the way to what we believe is the bottom, that bottom is not the same bottom as it was before.
Right. Yeah.
It always raises. And also sometimes we can get swallowed by the snake, but it actually takes us up.
Yeah.
I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. It's so cool, that idea, that concept. And also sometimes you climb the ladder of success and it kind of takes you down.
Yep.
Right. So
Absolutely.
so this is very fun, this concept. But really in the end it's a wave like this, but it's on this upward trajectory always.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's very nice. I mean, there's some up and downs, but they appear up and downs, always actually up. That's just really huge for me, that concept.
Yeah.
Olivia will say this too. She does feel like there are some people that are on devolving trajectories. And this is, and that's kind of really profound when you look at it, because they make a choice, and they step over that line of integrity and impeccability, and that choice, it takes them on that devolving trajectory, and that's a huge thing. It's a very big deal, and it's kind of hard to comprehend that you can get locked into that, but that's the choice. You compromised yourself, and you start lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. You keep lying to yourself, and now you realize that you built this whole nonsense thing, and you don't want to kind of crash it and start again, because you realize that all your life it's been a lot of nonsense, and you got to start at the bottom again. They don't want to start at the bottom, so they just keep devolving. But she says, it's also part of nature, because look, in nature, compost, things grow out of compost, and stuff devolves, and that's what makes compost, and then stuff grows. So I don't know. It's an interesting perspective on things, in that there's everybody benefits from it in the long run. In other words, is what she's saying, which is quite a profound point of view when you look at particularly that type of a person. Um, Not that they're a type necessarily, but when you see those that are caught up in that loop, it's a sad loop. Of course, I know we see it in Trump. So um, he's such a prime example, and I think from our point of view, there's a magic to him being there. In that, when we really look carefully at him and his, the way he is, his character, how he does things, we see this devolving trajectory, and we see also it magnifies all that. So I'm kind of just looping a little bit here also, just to use this to finish up in terms of, we were reading the Out BS book, and we got kind of halfway more or less, but we're switching to reading the Biella story, because for a bunch of reasons. One, that story has, or at least that book is one that's more personal if you are dealing with that. It's not so general. And two, the Biella book has come up in our discussions, just of everyone in general here, in a way that's very potent and very powerful and very meaningful. But the main key point of the shift is, because I've noticed in our discussions that we've been having, that when we really focus on something, and focus on something that's very meaningful and important to us, it brings more of that into focus. Like, for instance, Erica, when you mentioned about breaking the mother-daughter cycle, or the parent-child cycle, one that hasn't been a positive cycle, that then started to happen in a very profound and meaningful way. Okay, it may just be local here, but nonetheless, it's just one example. I've got just dozens. Every chat I'm on Zoom, I see this happening, where essentially our attention brings into focus what we've been paying attention on. So Donna and I were chatting about this last night, and in terms of using vocabulary specifically for this, we want to shift it away from the term manifesting and manifestation, because it's such an overused and overabused term. Now, so to shift it to rather describing the world, and attention maybe, and any other term. So we're open here. Anybody have any suggestions? But this is really what it's about. It's how we describe our world, and this is the key. So we're looking, and this is the reason for shifting to reading the Biella series, in that this attention on what it is that we do want. This is our focus. Yes, it's great to resolve what you don't want. That's fine and well. But in that same resolution, we need to shift to what we do want, that replacement. And replacement here is the key power term. So it's definitely capital R, replacement. To say, hey, I'm going to institute something new, something powerful, something meaningful, something that has value to me. Not only value, but something that's precious to me, something that's beautiful, something that's meaningful, something that is truly like awesome. What I really, really want, in other words. Now, the Biella series is obviously not being represented yet as the ideal. Donna dropped and is Donna's back. As as an absolute ideal for everyone. It is a starting point to stimulate ideas of what could be, what might be, what is potentially so, and that's really huge. And this is, we're going to merge this in terms of all of us. Hello, Donna. Brilliant. Glad I could see you. Very good. Very good. Very good. Mary dropped off. But again, also in the dropping off, of course, if you guys drop off and come back, it's never a worry. Sometimes some drop off and they feel a bit bad on dropping off and all that, but please don't. It's not a worry. It's not a concern. Never, ever, ever. Hello, whoever that's back. Mary, I'm guessing. Yes, Mary. All right, so I'm saying that in our reading of the Biella series, yes, it is connecting to the noble ideal, and that's really powerful. And I feel all of us here have our own noble ideal of some variation, and the idea behind this reading is to elaborate on and substantiate and flesh out what the noble ideal is for all of us. And this is very exciting. This is very, very, very exciting. So we'll use the Biella series as just a basis from which to grow more, as it were. And so the idea is just that noble ideal. You're in two places at once, Donna. I love it. You're Donna and Dinner right now. I love that. Okay, so I have somewhat of a of a little mini conundrum here. I'll show you in a second, and that is there's a prelude to the story, and it doesn't start off. Donna, you're familiar with the book already. It starts off on with just one word, the first chapter, but there is a chapter 0, which is a prelude, but it's not. There's no Biella in that prelude. It's set long time before that, and it's just how the all of the people that end up in that particular galaxy, how they come to be there. So it sort of goes way back, goes back to Earth, in the old Earth, the original Earth. So I'm debating on whether to start with the prelude or just to start directly with Biella and start right there, which is chapter 1. The other is chapter 0. It's a prelude. So I'm debating on that. I'm not sure. I don't know. Have you read the prelude part, the Seeding the Dream one, Donna?
No.
No. Okay. I'm still debating, but anyway, I think we can come back to it another time. I think I'll just start with Biella directly. So all right. All right. So just in terms of our reading here, let me just put the screen share up. Well, Donna and I were talking about this last night, and we're getting there. It's okay, Donna. It's okay. All right. You all settled, Donna?
Yeah.
I'm just a bit amused. I was just going to say, so I was asking Donna if she'd like to read Biella, and I'm assuming you're still keen to, Donna, or happy to?
Sure.
All right, brilliant. Okay, so I'll read the narrator parts, and then just like when she speaks, you read those parts. Now, in the beginning here, Donna, there are some. All right, I'll show you in a moment. Am I on screen share? Yeah. And then I was going to say, Erica, since you came on first here, if you would read the parts that are Nora and Aki. I think Aki only has very minimal lines, but if you just read those, just so we have some differentiation. And then there are some other parts with Marco and Mumt, but I'll just read those. They're not very many. So, and again, just read what's inside the quotations. I like sometimes, there's like she said and all that. I'll just read those parts. And we're having fun here, so we don't care if we're doing this smoothly or not. And we're going to stop anytime anybody has a question, an idea, just a comment. You just interrupt, just jump right in. We'll just restart at whatever sentence we're in the middle of, because this is an interactive reading, and that's the idea. It is to get that interactivity. And so anything that sparks or comes up, say, oh, wait 1 second. And then, we get into that discussion because stuff comes up. So this first part here, Donna, this paragraph, that's actually, she's thinking it, so that's why it's not in quotation marks, but that is a story that's a part to read as well. So all right, we're kind of getting there. I just want to get my Facebook sorted so I can see the comments, and also just take a little time here. Usually in these things it takes a little while for everybody on Facebook to join. We're already 15 minutes in. Okay, well, never mind then. And just the way Facebook does this, they don't give you an advance notification, and sometimes you don't always see those notifications either. It's just a peculiar way they do it. I don't know what their logic is always, but I have found that it does help to have a bit of delay in the start of things. All right. We're getting there. We're getting there. I'm impatient. I shouldn't be, but I am. I'm excited. I don't know. I just this whole just reading it is very exciting to me. All right. So there we see live. I'm very excited to share this with you guys. And to get the feedback and the interactivity. Hello, whoever that is. Hello, hello, hello. It's Ryan. All right, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. All right, well, Ryan, fantastic. Since you're here now, I didn't. Oh, you're driving. All right, never mind. In that case, we'll put you on mute then, Ryan. Is that all right? Morning. Yeah. We're gonna start listening. But that's cool, man. Start reading just in a moment. But since you're driving, that tends to make a lot of mic noise. So we'll put you on mute. All right, very cool. Hi, Bryce. Hi, Juliet. Hello. I just want to say hello to you. All right, perfect timing. Perfect timing. All right, muting you now.
So remind me, I'm supposed to be doing a key and who
Nora.
else? And Nora. Okay.
Nora, yeah.
Okay.
Again, don't worry about it too much. We're gonna have fun here, and we're just winging it here. That's part of the fun, and just sort of from our way of impeccability point of view, what we are doing here, we're leveraging ourselves just to express and to do something a little different that we hadn't done before. And what we're really doing here is practice. So this is just a fun mechanism precisely because there's been no pre-doing, no rehearsing, nothing. No, we're just winging it. And we're quite happy to be incomplete, to not be precise, whatever. It doesn't matter because it just falls under the heading of general practice. So we are making space for ourselves to be rough, to be unfluid, to stumble a bit here and there. Who cares? We're just going to have fun. So that's part of the magic of this, right? So can you see the screen? Is it big enough, by the way, the reading, the typing?
Yes, I can read it.
Erica, you cool too?
Yep, I've got it's on my phone, so it's kind of small, but I've got it up on my computer. So.
All right. Okay, brilliant. Because I can make this. Well, let me do that. I'll make it just that little bit bigger. It don't have to be this size. There we go. That should be good, right?
Cool. Yep.
Brilliant. Okay. So let me just make the screen here. All right. So who's with us here? Sher, would you do me a favor, please, and just keep an eye on the live in the group, in the Sassy group, just in case there are comments there. And then just alert us to the comments or read them out so we can address those. I haven't seen anybody join there yet, but they don't always tell you when people when people do that. So you know what? I'm going to try something. I'm going to start a watch party in the group, just for those of you that are group moderators. I did this once before, and it did kind of alert more people that something was going on. So. All right.
Oh, okay. I gotta go get in there then.
Can you move that over a little bit? Because I can't see the bookmark.
Yeah, I will in a second.
Oh, okay.
Hang on.
Oh boy.
No, I know it's all cockeyed right now. I have to put the sound on. Yeah. We're getting a double loop sound now.
Yeah, we are.
There we go. Okay. So whenever you're watching your own live and you're on Zoom, be sure to mute the live sound on Facebook because otherwise you'll hear it twice, of course. And the Facebook is always a little bit delayed. All right. I'm trying to get it so I have it nice and narrow here, Donna, so that I can see if there are comments. All right, Mark Ambler joined, brilliant. And Joseph, yes, this is related to psychology, very much so. It is a story. It is a fictional story. That's a great question. And that fictional story, it is an application in in the story of very deep psychologies, very deep perspectives, very deep understandings. It's an application of a particular way of being. And that's very profound in this case. So yes, very much connected to psychology. Yep. And philosophy too, but applied philosophy, actual, real, in action philosophy, where it's not all dry and theoretical. This is practical philosophy. I like to think of it as practical, personal philosophy. But yeah, there's a lot of psychology involved here. And I'd be interested to hear your comments or anyone's comments on the psychology involved in this. All right. Brilliant. So, Sher, you're all set. Just, let me know. All right. Fantastic. Donna, you're all good. Erica, you're all good. And Erica, let's see. Yeah, you're paying attention to your muting. Not that it's an issue. And again, we're just doing this on the fly. We're having fun with this. This is not a big, sophisticated production here. No, we're just having fun within ourselves. The idea is the discussion. It's an interactive reading. So we're just having fun doing it together instead of me just reading it. It's just a little bit so more fun. All right, so here we go. Starting off this. Just one word, chapter 1 of The New Nobles, book 1 of the Biella series. The little just postscript here. This was very original when I first wrote this. This is a story post inspired by Angel Face and for her birthday. Happy birthday, sweetness. Part 1 of the Biella series. Scroll down for the audio visual. So if you guys come back to this, you can listen to this if you ever want to go over this. All right, so here we go. One concept to rule them all. One concept to find them. One concept to bring them all, and in the unawareness, bind them. From Tales, Myths, and Fables of the New Nobility.
I am here, Biella, at the school, the school of nobility, not for, she reminded herself. I am here to engage in noble learning, to learn nobleness.
To acquire new ways of living, new ways of being. It is the school of the new nobility, nothing at all to do with heredity or historical nobility. Those were long dead. The new nobility was something else entirely. The school of nobility, a school like no other. An entire planet the school, an entire culture and society of school. A school with no classrooms, no teachers, no lectures, yet a phenomenal school. Profound, effective, continuous, a school of joy, fun, excitement, and mystery. A school where learning was play. She had been accepted from among so many all across the galaxy, a marvel to her. She'd been at the school for a number of years, but still the wonder of it infused her. Ari Berry Biella, her friends just called her Biella, strolled past groves and gardens of every conceivable size, shape, hue, and texture. The more of nature inextricably linked to the new nobility. Lithe strides conveyed Biella through gardens representing grace, courtesy, goodness, honor, virtue, integrity, communion, and more. Anyone could join the new nobility. Those that came did so because everything in their lives revolved around personal development, revolved around pursuit of the noble ideal. No set definition constituted the new nobility. One just knew. No status to it either. Harder to understand. A long time had been needed to establish this statuslessness. Many had faded from the school when they realized their ambitions of personal attention would not be met. Now it was simply common knowledge that the new nobility and ego, vanity, self-importance, or fame didn't go together. The new nobility were there to serve the more. They were there to be experienced. They were there to be. They added to the world around them without trying to, simply through being in that unique way. But Biella's thoughts were elsewhere. She was struck by the diversity of the new arrivals, wondering what it would be like on their worlds, what she would need to be if she were there. Biella felt that familiar pressure of doing surge within herself, a pressure whose origins originated inside her. Outside her, thoughts unfurled into an idea. Coming to the Garden of Integration mansion, a large park-like space, Biella surveyed her environment, smelling the recently robot-cut grass, absorbing the birdsong, feeling the many groups engaged in earnest discussion. She could taste the joy, her long, dark hair teasing the light breeze. New nobles and aspirants moved between the groups, or stopped to listen briefly before continuing their walks. Any group was open to all. Meeting her picnicking friends plus a few random joiners she did not know, in the middle of a large expanse of lawn, Biella asked,
If you were to wake up on a strange world with your memory gone, only able to remember one word, one concept, what would it be?
Happiness.
Aki immediately responded, always the impulsive one. Not sure happiness would be best, Kaljun said. What if you woke up on one of the new reformed worlds? They are a serious bunch, that lot. You'd be in trouble pretty quick over there if you went around happy all the time. His sober face matched his words.
Yeah.
Aki grumbled. They all laughed. The image of the irrepressible Aki in amongst the dour and gloomy new reformers was just too funny. Aki was very new and very young. The selection methods for the school were many and varied. In Aki's case, a physiological predisposition to nobleness, especially rare, even more rare to pass the subsequent screenings. Most with this predisposition could not avoid developing a sense of entitlement or superiority, a peculiar contradiction. Biella, fierceness for me, said Marco. I know it appears odd at first, but hear me out. He glanced around the group, making sure he had their attention. Fierceness does not necessarily mean aggression, just as ruthlessness doesn't necessarily mean cruelty or meanness. I mean fierce as in energetic, determined, being ready for anything. He grinned his idea at them. There was some thought on this. Seems good. You'd have the fierceness to protect you in case it wasn't a friendly world, someone at the back said. Yes, but a shy, tiny voice ventured. Biella had interacted with them a few times, still unable to pronounce their name, not sure of their sex, or even if gender was a consideration. She simply called them the community, as most others did. On my world, I am by far the fiercest of everyone. No jokes. With that, everyone laughed, joyfully. The community joined in, as there was no meanness or belittlement in the laughter. The one who had spoken was the most placid entity, by far, any there had ever known. The idea of them as fierce was just too funny. No, truly, they insisted. I have a cousin who literally doesn't move for weeks, and he's no exception. Fierceness would make you too fast where I'm from. You'd go by everyone. They wouldn't be able to, and wouldn't want to, tune into you. This all took quite a while to come out, evidently an effort for the community. Nora spoke up next, a wild, clever girl with penetrating insights, full of surprises, a rocket ship of a girl.
What about fluidity?
She asked, a channel of concentration furrowing across her forehead. She was already debating herself.
I was thinking of fitting in everywhere, be whatever everyone wanted.
Too soon, Nora, too soon. Biella wanted more alternatives to be discussed first. The champion of appeasement, she exclaimed, putting an end to her own argument before anyone else. She had already worked it through, high octane all the way. Sorry, that was me. But someone started to say.
Appeasement.
Nora asserted.
Do I have to spell it out?
She said with a great big grin. Her infectious, ever-present good humor made them laugh. Excellent. I am keen for more, to show the fullness. Biella smiled. Her bright eyes glittered with enthusiastic interest.
Let's shoot. Oh.
Yes, you. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let's shoot out the first concepts which spring to mind until we hit upon one that sticks. I'll start with kindness, love, goodness.
Strength.
Smiled Nora, knowing it wasn't good, understanding immediately, wanting to help get the process moving. The new nobility concepts, harmony, grace, love, appreciation. Sorry, I'm not saying who says that, so I'll just say it as the as the narrator.
Fearlessness.
Nora interjected. having just thought of it. She knew it was on the wrong tack, but she wanted to stimulate the conversation to non-obvious concepts. She was a rocket ship of a girl, that Nora. Ambition, greed, desire, Ch1 said with a twinkle in his eye. He beamed at Nora as if this had been her idea, teasing her. She scowled back at him, startling him for a second, but then smiled broadly. She was too quick for him. Fearlessness was a good one, her mump deadpanned. More with ness at the end. Or perhaps he was serious.
Ruthlessness.
Biella asked. A pause as they considered this, for they all well understood the necessity of ruthlessness when it came to doing good. It was the indispensable tool of good mothers everywhere, was it not? Calm, patience, discipline, forbearance, tolerance, a flurry of ideas swirled about them.
Wait.
Aki said.
Go back one or two. Forbearance seems a good one. What's wrong with forbearance?
Sweetness, lethality, eagerness, charm, her mum said. At least a couple in there ending in ness.
Forbearance won't necessarily allow you to initiate.
Nora said absently. Her mind had raced ahead.
Fearlessness may make you too bold, which nixes boldness also.
Ruthlessness lacks joy. Harmony lacks decisiveness. Calm, patience. Oh, this is all Nora. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Ruthlessness lacks joy. Harmony lacks decisiveness. Calm, patience, and discipline all lack creativity.
Nora was presenting the counter to the concepts mentioned, eliminating new ones all at the same time, wanting to facilitate the eventual resolution. She knew her friend Biella already had the answer all along.
Just because you can predict something doesn't mean you will be able to change it or be able to overcome it.
She threw in for good measure, shifting orbit.
Well, Biella, out with it.
Nora demanded, straining forward eagerly, inadvertently and subconsciously brushing against her mump. There was no accounting for taste sometimes. Her mump beamed, forgetting the conversation. He wanted to blast off that rocket ship indeed. But Nora was oblivious to him.
Well,
She intended.
Appropriateness.
Biella breathed. Of course. Oh, sorry.
of course.
Yelled Nora. Appropriateness was, after all, the foundation of the new nobility.
But this specific application...
She trailed off, leaving the concept to be applied. They absorbed this, shaping it, each to their own, exploring it, testing it, looking for any flaws. They were all honest to a fault, wanting to make sure it was indeed the concept they had been looking for. They couldn't, in all honesty, ever simply accept someone's word for it, even Biella's. Well, it's appropriate, ends in this, her mum perhaps joked. One never knew with him.
Yes.
Nora exclaimed.
To determine appropriateness, you'd have to determine your goals, establish your context, or the other way around, depending on the circumstance.
The afterburners were kicking in now, as I am wanting context for the goal of appropriateness. Biella waited.
It would bring wisdom, helpfulness, and charity properly into the picture.
Nora raced on.
Context is key.
Biella said.
That was the problem with all the other concepts. They were all limited in one context or another.
Love seems like such an obviously good one, Marco said.
Yeah, love is awesome.
Aki said.
Why not love?
Love without evolution is a dead end.
Biella continued.
Love without sentience can be calamitous.
This is why she was Biella. Deep, deep, magical, mystical Biella. They so loved her.
If we are focused solely on love without furthering our awareness, we easily get stuck. And sadly, this often leads to the inappropriate application of goodness. In this broad and endless universe of wonder, everything, every single thing,
She overemphasized.
everything, no matter how bad it may appear, everything is appropriate at some time or another. You may find yourself literally having to fight somebody's battle for them. Hate could temporarily come in handy to get the job done.
They mulled this over, finding instances where negativity of all kinds could be appropriate. A collective shudder rippled through the group. They didn't want to go there. It was enough to just lightly and quickly reach out along those paths. No need to dwell and make negativity a possibility and actuality, or even risk the chance of doing so inadvertently. They were aware of the concept. The world you found yourself in was always a description. Appropriateness, they muttered and reiterated, each making it their own, applying it to themselves, to their particular situations, stretching and bending to test it every way they could think of. That is awesome. Appropriateness is always appropriate, Hermund said, emphasizing the capitals. One really never knew with him. Appropriateness is not proper, as I have seen it confused, Kaljun cautioned. It has nothing to do with that horror should. Each situation is different when it comes to appropriateness. There are no rules.
Context doesn't only pertain to your surroundings,
Biella added.
but to time as well. We have to consider if our actions are appropriate in the immediate and in a long-term context,
Biella paused.
and in the universal context.
She always had a kicker, that Biella, deep.
It's no good making sure the material is taken care of by neglecting the spiritual.
She looked carefully at her friends.
But how often do we ask ourselves, is this good in the universal context?
Biella leaned her slender frame into the emphasis.
Are my actions appropriate in every single context I can think of? Physically, materially, socially, spiritually?
She paused.
Well, I see I'm going to have to rearrange my life.
One more.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay. There we go. Just go up one paragraph. You skipped one.
Are my actions? Is that where I'm at?
Yeah.
Are my actions and my goals appropriate in the context of my death, my evolution, my awakening, my emergence, my actualization, my transcendence?
Biella leaned back, her gaze far. Well, I see I'm going to have to rearrange my life, starting now, her mump muttered to a chorus of A's.
Where to start?
Nora entreated. Action, application. Without application, it was all meaningless. Biella.
Start with remembering appropriateness in every little action, in every microsecond, in every context, immediate to universal. Start by continuously remembering to be appropriate.
Biella said this with such fierce determination, they simply nodded their assent. It was as if Biella were willing it right into them. That was Biella. Time for reflection, integration, incorporation. Biella stood, cueing transition. The group dispersed, agreeing to meet again, to discuss and share how they were implementing appropriateness into their lives, how it would apply to the school of nobility, how they would be incorporating these concepts into themselves. So much more. Alight with enthusiasm and eagerness, they couldn't wait to resume the discussion. Thanks, Biella. Here we go. Next chapter, the Infernal Machine. But we'll do that next time. So I'm just keen on any takeaways. We'll just assume the group is reassembled and now we're discussing this idea of appropriateness being the one concept that if you woke up on a foreign world with no memory, that this would be the one thing that you would want to remember. If you could only have like one core thought that would now flesh out everything else. So anybody have any ideas of any other potential starting thoughts or starting conceptions? Not really a thought, a starting conception.
Well, if you woke up on a world with no memory, how would you really know what any of these values are? You would just be. right?
Right. Well, I'm saying memory in the terms of usual memory loss, where you didn't know who you were, and you didn't know what your name is, and you didn't know what the environment is. Typically, people who have memory loss, I mean, there's various degrees of memory loss, but they don't lose they don't lose their connection to language, so they still retain that, and they know how to make bread and or spread their bread, or they know how to walk, and so they still retain language. They just don't retain the specifics of how their personal history. So that's why they will still be able to remember that.
So then we would just be good and appropriate at all times.
Say that again, sir.
I said, so then we would be inherently good and appropriate at all times. I mean,
Yeah, I guess so. That's kind of an interesting concept, because that's interesting. I don't know, from what I understand of people who wake up with or just experience memory loss in this way, because they don't have any identity, they tend to feel a little lost and a little unsure. They don't have a starting point of where to connect. And usually all of their focus is geared on getting who I am back. This becomes somewhat of like a little mini obsession. And it loses, I guess, it depends on your personality. I don't know. For me personally, if I think I woke up and I couldn't remember who I was, I don't know, I'd find that quite exciting. So,
well, I kind of would too, but I also look at it as some of us who are going through transition at this point, we're kind of at that point. Well, I don't know who I am. So discovering it all. So this is really fascinating to me to see this.
yeah, exactly. I love it. I love it. It's just really exciting. It truly is. But so in the premise of the story, though, we're assuming that, you wake up and you're looking around and you say, what now? And,
Yeah.
you don't even have any other people. So the idea of even having a name is something that you are not sure of. You just now need to kind of make the best of your life, as it were. And that's the idea here. Like, as a root concept, what would help you to get going in that world? So if we start with some of those concepts, like fierceness or love, for instance, you could say, okay, just love, that might be a default that we come to. And what happens if we actually start and we move out into this new world? And let's just assume it's some, science fiction world. It's not our particular world, but it's humans there, and it's more or less the same. So you go out into this world and you start practicing love, and you just do that. What would be the consequence of that?
Or you asking me?
Yeah, anyone. Doesn't matter. Anyone.
Anyone.
Not everyone's intention is the same as yours. So I feel like caution could be maybe necessary. And like observing, listening, hearing, really paying attention to your surroundings and trying to learn as much about it as possible.
Exactly. So if you just go and you start applying love, you don't know in that culture, for instance, you may go and you start hugging everybody. But it's a culture in which, let's just say, just for argument's sake, just for roughly, where infectious things like colds and flu and that, it's a big problem in it. So yeah, you coming out here and people are like, hey, whoa, what the hell? You gotta, just for a simple argument, right? And also when we love people, we say, oh, but I think this will be helpful to you. And we all know people who've told us things that would be good for us and helpful to us that were thoroughly inappropriate. So, there's a whole bunch of ways in which your love could now manifest inappropriately, right? So, but I liked what you said, Erica, in terms of we go out there and we say, hey, we've got to learn, we've got to listen, which is essentially determining the nature of what's going on, gathering information, right? So that would be huge. Wouldn't that be kind of, now if you take all of what you just said, wouldn't that automatically just flow from this idea of appropriateness, which would be the first thing I got to do is determine my context? Isn't that what you were doing?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. So wouldn't we also have to say, okay, I see I'm in a world that I don't know, that's unfamiliar to me. Okay, I don't know how I got here. Maybe the aliens moved me, some conspiracy theory. I don't know, but I have to figure this out. Okay, let's just for argument's sake say that, right? We have some memory of stuff going on. So we accept the reality. Wouldn't our next thing have to determine to say, well, okay, I'm here now. I realize I'm in a strange context. And what do I do? Well, when I ask, what do I do? I have to sort of get into that. Well, what do I want to achieve? What are my aims? What are my goals? What is appropriate for me in terms of my goals? So now we get to that point of motivations and goals and intent, in other words. Yes? And if we knew that, wouldn't that now shift the whole ball game? If I say, oh, well, what do I need to do? Okay, well, whatever it is that you feel that you want to do in that particular situation, well, okay, I have a motivation. I need to find some way to sustain myself. Okay, who knows? Maybe it's a world where, like in the agglomeration, one of the agglomeration worlds, and you see that, charity is abundant, and, there's not a problem with making a living. Let's say you've been there for a little while now and you realize that, they have universal basic income, for instance, and, you can just, there's I don't know, what do they call them in Star Trek, where they make the food, where they put it in and it just beams the food in. Replicators. Let's say there's replicators and stuff going around. So survival is, in other words, not an issue. Thank you, Sher. Replicators. I love it. So there's, so now I say, oh, well, what the hell am I going to do now? Okay, survival is not an issue. Well, okay, survival's taken care of. I guess, for me personally, my next thought would automatically jump to evolution. And so, okay, well, learning and growth. Okay, now I know what I want to do. And life is easy after that when you have that determination. But you may want to feel, I want to be useful in some. This is a fantastic place. And man, everything is so easy, but what can I do that's useful? That might be your motivation. So it depends on the individual, I'm just kind of curious, if you guys were in that situation, what would your personal motivations be? Erica?
That's an excellent question. I think it would depend on what I learned about the environment around me. What my intent would be. But definitely I would want to start connecting, I think, make connections with people and with, the environment around me. And learn, like I said, start learning. And definitely, I think like you said, if it was a place where I really felt comfortable and connected with sort of the intent of everyone else around me, then I would definitely want to help or contribute to that, find my place in that society.
Interesting. Now, if we take that just one step further, that's why I asked you here too, because you are potentially in a situation where you might actually be somewhat in a different world soon. In other words, if you change careers or jobs or vocations, you may find yourself in a completely different corporate environment. And they can be drastically different sometimes. There is a wide range. And I would assume, just on knowing you somewhat, that you would look for a corporation that has a profoundly different corporate culture, one that does have some element of ethics or nobility, in whatever way they express it. So now when you're in that type of an environment, that connectivity is very important, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And before you made associations and connections, yes, you connect to everybody, but I would assume you would make an effort to get to know as many people as possible in corporation.
Yeah.
Also,
absolutely.
Okay. Just from a strategy point of view, because if we're in a new environment and the first and nearest person you latch onto and make friends with, they might not be the most ideal fit and connection.
Right.
And you could end up in little mini bubbles, and now you sort of lost a little bit because you've associated inappropriately, in essence, where it's not really, the ideal. Ideally, if it was really okay, we're talking about real worlds here. If it was a new nobility corporation, it wouldn't matter. But in the real world, they cliques, and sometimes they're inappropriate, those cliques. And so you can really kind of get yourself stuck and go backwards, as it were, down a little bit of a snake, as it were, before. So your associations when you're joining a new corporation are very, very, very important. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So we take this to the real world here, because I really like the real world examples. That strategic awareness of, before you connect on a deeper level, you first check out the entire range, and then you choose, so that you don't limit yourself. Because even though you might, let's just say for argument's sake, you connect and the first couple of people you see, oh man, wow, I love this. This is really like, wow, awesome. I love these people. And they do end up to be the ones you really wish to connect with longer term. Just doing that right off the bat, even though you are going to do that longer term, could also have a detriment, yeah? Because you could now be saying, hey, I'm being exclusive. I'm not being inclusive.
Right. Absolutely.
So
Yeah,
we have
very
to
true.
have that appropriateness in terms of, and in terms of Joseph's question here, in terms of the psychology, we have to have that awareness that whatever you do is pretty much consequential and comes with implications. Yeah. So it's really exciting when you look at it from that point of view. So we want to get that lay of the land. We want to see what everything is about. In other words, gather information. Like you said, be in listening and hearing mode, right? And also, you're on mute, but I see you saying yes. So
Yes.
you can just leave your mic open. It's fine. You don't have background noise, so it's all good. And that listening and hearing mode, that observation mode, it just keeps our options open. And when you're in a business environment like that, strategy is very important. Now, okay, if we were on Nobelia, which is the planet, what the planet's called, where the School of Nobelia is located, the School of Nobility is located. If we're on Nobelia, such matters wouldn't matter, and that's kind of where we are trying to head to. In our particular group here, also, none of that matters. You're not looking from things in that strategic point of view. But out in the real world, at this point in time, we still have to be aware that this is a part of it. All right. So just taking this a little bit further. But before I go a little bit further, because I want to go to the strategy of queuing, where we are being preemptive in terms of putting out there what it is that we are looking for, and to implement it and thereby create our own loop of what's happening. But before we go into there, I'm just keen to hear from Sher and Donna, if just on anything at all in this context. I don't see you anymore, Donna.
Okay.
Sher, go ahead. I think
On
Donna
the
made
context,
it.
okay, on the context of, what it was you were just talking about, not about queuing, but about prior, right?
Yes.
Okay. The one thing that kind of kept coming back to me was the thought of, you're coming into pretty much just a whole new situation. So your old subscriptions, your old schools of thought are not going to exist. So then at that point, what are you going to choose to subscribe to?
Yes.
To me, that would be a huge conundrum.
Yes.
I would really, really, really have to take a step back and just observe and listen and just absorb everything, and then out from there what was going to be appropriate for me.
Yes.
And Cher, it sounds to me like you're kind of saying you're having to observe yourself, because if you're not sure what you even believe, you're kind of having to figure out not only what everyone else around you is believing, but what do you believe?
Wow.
Exactly, and that's real world application right now.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Me too.
That's why I wanted to ask. That's exactly it. And to be in that position where we are in that position of observing, just letting things come to us, and not just observing what's around us, but observing what's inside us, who we are, where we are, what resonates, what sparks us, what stimulates us. Man, this is an incredible place to be in. That openness, and from the new nobility point of view, it's a state of being in which they are perpetually in to some degree or another. So yes, there's the new nobility, and you're a new noble. There is some measure of determination here, but like Aki and Nora and Carl June and all of them, they aspirants technically in the situation here, and there's a reason for it. We'll get into it later in the story, but every new noble considers themselves to be a perpetual aspirant. Yes, that's it. We're all perpetual aspirants. And
I have a core belief, which is I am good. That is my core value.
Exactly.
Everything else is open for interpretation right now as I'm bringing it in.
There's one difference in what you said, Sher. It's not a belief that I am good. It's a knowledge.
A knowledge.
Right. It's not a belief. This is something you know deep down. This is a fact, just as a fact that you breathe, and that that's it. It's an integral fact. The same as the fact that you're alive. The two go together. If I'm alive, I am good. Same thing.
Yes.
It's a fact. It's very different to a belief. Very, very different. Because a belief is may or may not be. This is something that's absolutely not open to any kind of question. Yes?
Yes, exactly.
Very big difference. Very, very, very big difference. Huge. Donna, what you thinking?
Don't really have any insights. That
Brilliant. Donna's like super into the observation and listening mode. I love that. In other words, Donna, you actually applying this very concept right now, yes?
Hmm.
But the
Yes.
goodness point though, let me ask you on that specifically, Donna, that like Cher was saying that, okay, her starting point is the knowledge or the knowing, I'm updating it, Cher, the knowing that we are good. Does that resonate with you too, Donna?
Mhm.
As a starting point, that internal intent to goodness. If I ask, what is my intent? Well, if I think about it a bit, I have an intent to goodness in whatever form that takes place. I'm not looking to do anything nasty or horrible. I'm looking for goodness in and around me. My own goodness, goodness of others, goodness of the world, goodness of nature, goodness of the universe, any kind of goodness. It doesn't matter. Because goodness here also goes to more than just our usual typical application of goodness. For instance, beauty. Isn't beauty a profound goodness? Yeah? Anyone?
Yeah.
All right. What about joy? Isn't joy a massively, ridiculously profound, absurdly fantastic goodness? Not just
Yes.
joy, but say delight, or maybe something really superlative, something like say elation, or
Yes.
bliss. Those are all deep, deep, ridiculously profound goodnesses, yeah?
Yes.
So this is a different way of looking at goodness. We have an intent to more, in other words. That goodness is an intent to more, yeah? And an
Interesting.
intent to joy. If I say joy here, I mean joy in as a catch-all term for all the variations of positive experience. Like I said, like elation, like bliss, like merriment, like fun, like exploration, like adventure. Any positive way of being or positive conception, those all sort of fall under joy for me in this greater conception. Glad to see you comfortable, Donna. Brilliant. Just see your feet up. I love that. I love that. Exciting. Um, so if we take the same concept again to, like we're saying, back to that business concept, in the real world concept, you're changing a job or you're changing a situation. In that situation where we say, hey, it's about observing and being that, and not also in that same concept, Erica, it's very important to not define ourselves. Yeah. You're driving. So, okay, no worries. We won't ask you for feedback. So yeah, I don't want you to be, distracted in your driving. So drive safe, in other words. But when we don't define ourselves immediately in a situation, in a context like that, it leaves us open to be able to be appropriate in whatever is the situation requires and demands. And here we come into a nice deep psychology of appropriateness, which is very important. When it comes to how we interact with the world, we have a range of options. Brilliant. Hello, wherever that is. No. I think somebody probably dropped off and changed back. But yeah, Erica, are you driving?
Sorry, y'all. I am,
No.
and it started to come through my car, so I had to restart.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
All right.
Brilliant. All right, but I was just going to say drive safe. So I'm not going to be connecting to you to
Thank you.
answer stuff. So drive safe.
Thank you.
All right. So when we're in this new situation and we are looking at how to be appropriate, we're observing, we're looking, we're taking in, and we're just listening to get a familiarity with the surroundings. We are now saying, wait a second. I also have to determine how I am appropriately going to be and share and present myself. Now, we might just assume, well, I'll just be me. But what does that mean when it actually comes to how we apply ourselves out in the world? And in that context, there's an entire range of options. For instance, yes, you just being you when you're at home and you're with your intimate friends or your loved one or whoever, your children or your family. That's one way of being. But that's not the only way that is appropriate for you to be. For instance, you go to a party. You are being in a particular way. You go to a funeral. you're now going to be in a different way. You are still you inside, but the way in which you interact with that environment is different. Hey again, Ryan, brilliant. I'm glad to see you home. Very good. So we're talking about, Ryan, in terms of the application of this story in a real world situation. If you find yourself like in a new environment, like for instance, you're changing jobs and you're in a completely different corporation with a whole different culture and everything's different, new people, you don't know anybody, and it's completely new to whatever you knew before. So we are applying this in a real world situation where essentially you're in this new situation and you don't know what's going on. So what do? The first thing you do is you basically determine your environment. You like pay attention to what people are, how they are, who's who, what the intent here is, what people's motivations in generally are, what the corporation expects, and all of this stuff. So you're gathering information. But now you also at some point have to decide, okay, you're in observation mode, but sooner or later you're going to have to start interacting. So you're also going to have to decide what your intentions are, what you wish to do. But before you get to that even, or maybe even after, either way, it doesn't matter. At some point, you're also going to decide in what style am I going to interact. And this is a very, very important point. And I want to make this point here because also that in the comments here, somebody asked, is this about psychology? And here's where the psychology comes into it. Joseph asked this. And the psychology in this case is the psychology of appropriate behavior. And when we start to understand that how we behave, in other words, our particular personality expression in the moment, that's something that we have a large degree of flexibility with. Because when you're making love, for instance, you behave in a particular way. That's not an appropriate behavior to display at your work, for instance, right? Same thing, what you do at a funeral, what you do at a party. All of these are different ways of behavior. The point I want to get at is to really make peace with this idea of having different behaviors for different situations. In the case like, when you're making love or when you're at a funeral or at a wedding or at a party, you have these different behaviors. And we accept that and it's okay. But in other situations, we might get stuck a little bit and like, well, I'm being false. No, you're not. When you're at a funeral, you are behaving appropriately. There's no falseness to it. That's just how you are. It's not your default way of being. You might be the happiest person in the world. Every day you are cheerful and full of the joys of life. But at the funeral, you shift that. You adjust it because it's inappropriate. Same thing, the way you make love. You can't go and be that way at your work. It'd be a little bit inappropriate. I don't know, maybe not. Depends on how you make love, but just for argument's sake. Yeah. It could be, who knows. But the point I'm trying to make is that earnest good people sometimes get stuck on this idea of how to behave, and they feel like they need to default to just their kind of root basic way of being, and they don't feel like it, they feel a bit uncomfortable in adapting their behavior to the situation because they feel a bit false. And that's a peculiar idea, really. And when we put it in this context of what I'm describing now, we say, hey, no, there are appropriate ways of behavior for whatever the context and the situation requires. Let's just say your new corporation is one which they joke around and they're very kind of casual and happy-go-lucky, and I don't know, when the dot-com, around 2000, when dot-coms first came around and there were these new companies that came out, some of those companies had radically different corporate cultures, and literally some of them were that way. They were like just, some of the founders were just, people had lots of money, didn't know what to do with themselves, and, they would just play, and it was like a kindergarten atmosphere in some of those companies, actually. So, hey, it might be appropriate. Others were very serious and sober. Now, you can determine where you fit in. In other words, what I'm saying is here, there's a great range of appropriate behaviors of how we express ourselves, and that's a choice. Not only is that choice determined by context to some degree, but even in that context where, let's say, that company where everybody's playing and they're joking around and they're a bit irresponsible and you could be the sober one. You don't have to conform to that. Not only can you be the sober one, but you can be sober one day and then you can be playful the next, and you can be irreverent the next day, and you can be like creative. You can change. We're not locked into any particular one way of personal expression. How we express our character is different. Our personality, in other words, is very different, and personality can vary and change. You can shift your personality as you like. It's like putting on your clothes. That doesn't change your internal character. In other words, if I'm cheerful, I'm still honest, right? If I'm sober, I'm still have integrity. If I'm being creative, I'm still being impeccable, right? So all of those core fundamentals underlying stay the same. How you express them, this is purely your choice, and you can choose that every single day. That's a choice, and this is the other point that I wish to make here, that when we realize how we express ourselves, it's not a fixed thing, that we do have choice of that expression. We can now wake up and in the mornings, for instance, say, and we've been talking about this with some here, to rather than say, how am I? And when we ask our partners and our friends and those we greet in the mornings by default, I say, hey, Ryan, how are you? And Ryan says, well, I woke up and I'm feeling a little bit disgruntled or whatever. I say, Ryan, how did you choose to feel today? That's a very big different question, yeah?
Right.
So let me ask you that, Ryan. How have you chosen to feel? Not how you were feeling by default when you woke up, but once you realized how I'm feeling, did you make a specific deliberate choice to feel in the way you are feeling now?
Yes.
There you go. That's very powerful. That is ridiculously powerful. When we realize that we can do this, we don't have to feel the way things come at us. So we have choice in how we feel. And this is a very, very subtle but profound, huge, huge shift. So for us in this particular group going forward, I'm also keen to, when we say, how are you, to have it imply, how did you choose to feel and be today? Just have that as a default indication. Go ahead, Ryan. I'm listening. I thought you had. No, so it's very exciting when we have that default where we say, how are you? And that means, how did you choose to feel and be today? And also sometimes I might just say, I woke up feeling good, but I thought, you know what? I want to test some stuff. I want to maybe get into, practice mode. So now I'm in the mode of like exploring, testing, and saying and doing things that I wouldn't normally do, that I am not always that comfortable with, and I need to learn. So I'm deliberately putting myself in a space where I'm figuring stuff out, where I'm going to be a bit awkward, where I'm going to like try things. Okay, that didn't work. I'm going to do it again. Try. So again, that's a really profound shift, but it's something we can do deliberate. And this idea of choosing how we wish to be, and if we take it to that real world concept of your new environment, like your new corporation that you're in, if we realize that, hey, we can be flexible and we can do things differently, this now shifts us quite radically. And if you take this, and Erica, I'm keen to ask you, because you have some experience with corporate by the sounds of things, and also changing jobs in corporate, I'm assuming, right? You've done that before too, yeah? You could just nod if that's so. You've changed jobs, yeah? Okay. So when you go to a corporate, instead of locking yourself into one way of being, if you go and you're listening, but on the first day you are this way, and then you come back and you're a little differently, or even during the day you start shifting and you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm not just one way. Don't just pigeonhole me into this one way. I'm not just Miss Cheerful or Miss Sober. No, I can be all these variations. Now you open yourself up, and people come to see you. They don't lock you into a box. And that is massively, massively, massively valuable, not just in corporate, but in your family life, in your environment, in your friends. When we can unhook from being pigeonholed into a box, oh, this is huge, right? Now, what happens, let's take this from the other side. Okay, what happens? So you come there and you start your new job, and you like very cheerful and friendly because that happened to be the mood at the time. And people get this idea, they box you as, Erica Jane, she's just very cheerful and bubbly and friendly. And now what happens in the next day, and you get into the business meeting, and management is there, and this is a very serious meeting, and you now switch to sobriety mode like everybody else because, well, this is the meeting. But those that have in their head this idea of you being bubbly and cheerful, when you say something really deep and profound and sober, they're not likely to hear it. right? Because that's just not something that a bubbly person says. So it just goes in one ear and out the other ear. They don't actually hear you because they don't have this conception. So here again, we come back to this deeper psychology. So when we're looking at this ability of appropriateness and we leave ourselves open, man, it shifts things very profoundly, because now we realize that, hey, we can be anything at any time. And when we start to get onto that self-conception, and again, we were looking at in terms of the idea here, you wake up and you say, I don't remember, I don't have an identity, but you remember appropriateness. When you start to apply that, and this concept of appropriateness goes to your, not just to your character, which has a core fundamentals, those you know, that intent to goodness, it automatically connects you to your integrity, to your ethics, to your impeccability. But now you say, how I interact, this is a matter of appropriateness. And this gives me, when that becomes our default, it gives us an incredible, incredible, incredible freedom. We can be whatever, wherever we choose. It's not even necessarily dependent on the situation or the circumstance. For instance, it is possible to be very positive and loving, even somewhat cheerful and joyful at a wedding. I've seen this. People come in and say, hey, you know what, Bill, he was my best buddy, man. I loved him. And he was just gorgeous. And one thing I can tell you all, that he would absolutely not want me to be sad right now. He always said, if I die, I want you to celebrate my death and to have joy. In other words, you turn the thing in a traditional kind of a sad, mournful funeral into a wake, which is a celebration of the person dying. So we can, in a situation, be what would be regarded as inappropriate. But if we do it with absolute integrity and it's appropriate, well, you can change things. And I've seen this happen actually literally at funerals, where you have one person say, oh no, I'm not going to be all sad and mournful. This is not what, my friend would want. And it goes against the thing. And then people, oh yeah, you're right. And then they all change. They unhook from their default, and you can shift things to the very opposite. Now, okay, in a funeral is a very profound example of it, or a deeper example. But this can also apply, of course, in any corporation, any environment, your family, anything. You don't have to accept the prevailing mood. You can change it. You can cue it. And having that flexibility to do so, when you combine it with your integrity and your impeccability, now you get this cascading effect. And it's really quite something marvelous. Plus, of course, sorry, I'm on a whole thing here. I'm just getting all excited. Plus, of course, when we make appropriateness our default way of being, doesn't that just make us very free?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I mean, right there, we have this freedom to be whatever. Not what is appropriate necessarily to the situation, because look at the funeral, but we have the freedom to even go that one step more. We can shift the world around us, and this brings us to where we are at in the greater context of us as a group here. We want to institute and implement our view of how we want the world to be. In other words, our version of the noble ideal. If I'm putting that out there, I'll say, hey, you know what? Yes, I understand I'm coming into a business, and yes, to be efficient and productive and diligent and punctual and all of those things are good. However, I want to add something to that. I want to take it one step further. I'm looking to add ethics to what I'm doing. And through me being ethical, I am hoping it's going to have a wave effect, a cascade effect. And others will, you can't really be unethical if, Sher's being ethical and doing her thing, because, just the awareness of it, it makes you realize that, hey, being ethical is a big deal. Then you can go even further. We can say, hey, you know what? I see Donna acting with nobility. Oh my goodness, I never actually even thought of nobility, but now that I see it in action, she's doing goodness more than is required. Oh my goodness, this is very profound. So we can influence and shape things, not that we are looking to manipulate or be influential necessarily. That's not the agenda, but we realize just through being in certain ways, we can shape our environment around us, or at least have a profound effect in some way, because it's not like we're putting our personal desires out there. Things like ethics and nobility, those are self-evident goodnesses. Anybody who has that same intent to goodness is going to say, oh, wow, man, that's really cool. And they're naturally going to gravitate and connect to it. So we can just have this be the 100th monkey, as it were, that tips the balance towards a new style of being and a new environment. And this is the excitement for me. This is the profound, deep application of just very simple psychology, that when we put something out there and we do so with full integrity, it becomes transformative. And, like we like to say, awareness is contagious. So if we put out a particular awareness of one that we are really, really desirous of, for instance, the awareness of impeccability, the awareness of integrity, the awareness of ethics, the awareness of nobility, those now become a contagion, a positive, fundamental, radically huge contagion that affects our environment around us and how people relate to us. We are changing our world through being what we wish to be. We don't have to go and tell anybody. We don't have to teach anybody. We can just be that, and it automatically has an effect. And this is a huge, huge, huge deal. And it's an outflow and a consequence of this deep application of appropriateness. Really, really huge. Really, really huge. Sorry, I got all excited. This is such a deep topic for me. And this particular chapter, that's why it's called Just One Word. Because if we just have to remember just one word, for me personally, that word is appropriateness. Now, it may vary for different ones, however it connects to you, but the underlying conceptuality is the same. It is about having a starting point that from there everything flows. That's very exciting. That's very exciting. Brilliant, brilliant. Sure. Let me. I don't see you, but I hope to. Just feel like you're saying something over there. I don't know.
No, actually, I am listening with all kinds of intensity.
Brilliant, brilliant. I love it. I love listening intensity. It's huge, and this is such a big topic. I know I'm very intense here because it's the starting point of so much more. And like we said at the beginning of this, what we are looking to do here is to shift away from out of the problem-solving mode, which tends to be a default mode, right? And so society as this in general. We say, hey, how can I fix things? How can I fix my problems? How can I sort things? Okay, that's all fine and well, and we can fix those. But what happens when we do eliminate the negatives in our life? We just end up with zero, right? Take away the negative, end up with zero. Without replacement, we basically have nothing. And we cannot be a nothing. So what happens typically? We just revert back to what we know is the problems, and we just repeat it all over again because we're comfortable being there. Better the devil I know than the one I don't know. And that's a typical thing. However, if we say, wait, we have replacement. We have different things that we can do. We have our own idea of what we want, our own personal noble ideal. Now we can go about thinking of this, emphasizing it, focusing on it. And like you were saying, Ryan, one of the key things why I'm shifting the stories, precisely you said it the other day. You said the problem with focusing on the bullshit book is that when we pay attention to stuff, it tends to bring it into our world. Yeah?
Yep.
All right. So that's what we are doing. We are shifting our focus and our attention to replacement. We want to replace with, right? So our personal noble ideals.
We're the ones in control.
Exactly.
Whatever we desire, we will manifest it.
In some way.
It's all, you talk about there's a word in silence. And when you bring it into silence and you focus on it, that focus will bring that into reality.
Right.
And when you're focusing, that means looking. I always say we have gateways into our minds and our bodies. Our mouth is a gateway, our nose is a gateway, our ears are gateways, our eyes, and our skin.
Right.
And we allow things to penetrate us through these gateways.
Right.
And I'm just expanding on what you just said, like whatever comes into these gateways we are going to become that. Right. So we have to be really careful of what we allow.
Right.
In. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. And what we pay attention to is the filter, the lens of that gateway. So our attention determines that. So if we focused on problems, that's what we set that lens to. We're filtering for perceiving and seeing problems. But if we set that filter, that lens, we set it to, oh, hey, wait a second, I'm going to set it to things connected to my noble ideal. Now, I'm just using noble ideal here for, you could say, aspirations or my ideal in whatever way. And I just use noble ideal as the concept because it comes through in the story. And we're using this story as a base point, as a starting point for this replacement idea. So now we start to say, hey, I want to just shift my lens and filter to connect to all things revolving around appropriateness in the most positive possible way, around the idea of nobility, around impeccability, around integrity, around honor, around ethics. Oh my goodness, this is my attention now. This is what I wish to see. Also, we wish to see the intent to goodness, that we just take it as a fact in ourselves, but we also want to see that in others. And if they see us seeing their intent to goodness and we see them as good, man, this now creates a bubble environment where people say, wow, they really see me as actually a good person. Okay, maybe in their past they've sort of been a bit crappy because they're conforming to the environment, because this is sort of how you expect it to be. You know, expect it to be a bit snarky, or you expect it to be a bit hierarchical, one-upmanship, all this crap. But here's somebody who sees me as just a pure person with a deep intent to goodness, who's into niceness and kindness and generosity and nobility and honor. Man, this is ridiculously transformative. How we see others can have a profound effect. It's a huge deal. I'll tell you a horrible story of this. And one thing that really made me difference. Now, I'm trying to focus on the positive, but it's in this case useful to be aware that we don't have a choice actually, because if we just default, we can also cause problems. So when I was at school, we got physical canings back in those days, with a cane, just like a bamboo cane. Anyway, so some kids that I knew in my class would literally get canings every single day. Every single day. Now you would think, right, there you go, right. Now you would think at some point you would like, dude, get a clue, for crikey's sake. I mean, you're doing the same shit over and over and over again. It's like, come on, man, for heaven's sake. I really felt for these guys. It was dreadful, But here's the problem, and it took me a long while to realize this, and it happened through an interaction with a girl that I knew. Therese was her name. So please, much love to you, Therese. Wherever you are out there, you are very fundamental and transformative in my personal growth and development. So for some reason, I would just say something in the class, when the teacher was out. Whatever I said, Therese would find objection to, and she would just start arguing with me. And it was like the weirdest thing. I might be sitting on the one end of the class and she'd be way on the other end. I didn't even know she heard what I was saying. Somehow she jumped on it and would start having an argument with me. I'm like, what the hell? So one day during this argument with Therese over absolute just bollocks and rubbish and nonsense, I'm like, I realized, oh my God, she's responding to what I think of her. My idea of her. Somewhere I'd gotten this idea that Therese is argumentative and a bit of a bitch. And this is what she was responding to. She was enacting my conception of her. And this was just absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, one thing, it was very devastating for me personally, because it's like, wow, I'm actually causing somebody to behave in a crappy way. And two, I kind of realized, but how are you taking your idea and way of being relative to me from me? Surely that's something you gotta do for yourself. What I think of you is totally relevant, because that was my personal viewpoint. I didn't care what other people thought of me. I just did what I did. But then I realized that doesn't apply to everyone. And this was a huge awakening, that I realized just by me being me, I have an influence on the world around me and an effect. And that was a massive big deal, a massive responsibility. So from that point on, I felt I made a whole big 360 shift to just looking for the good in people, focusing on the good. And that changed things. So I happened to change schools, and it was a profound story. But that's another long story for another time. The point I want to make is about those guys who got the hidings every day. When I started to take this understanding of cueing and this idea of people's idea of you and how it affects, and how some people take their own self-conception from the world around them. They don't set it for themselves. And I looked at those guys getting the hidings, and I realized that people had said to them, "You're a fuck up. You're a screw up. You're just a rubbish. You're a troublemaker, whatever." And this is what they took to be their conception. So getting a hiding every day was what you did if you were a fuck up and a screw up and a troublemaker. It was unbelievable that they would actually do stuff to conform to a conception of them that wasn't their own, that was actually self-detrimental. This was absolutely ridiculously mind-blowing to me. It was really, really huge. How they were in their way trying to be good, because they were trying to implement what their teachers and the parents and everybody around them thought of them. And in their way, well, that's kind of what I should do. And this was it. Them getting a hiding every day was their application of what they thought they should do. And when we are applying should, this is an application of our deep, deep intent to goodness. Because by default, should implies this is a good thing to do. And they don't make that distinction. It was just unbelievably mind-blowing. And it's really transformative for me to realize that we don't always take our self-conception from inside. We take our self-conception from external things. And this is huge, huge, huge. So Ryan, thinking back, since you were one of those that got into trouble all the time, how is what I'm saying relating to your personal experience? I'm assuming it's indifferent in some way because they inevitably are, but I'm keen to hear.
Yeah, at the time, I'll just say this, since I wasn't aware of what I was actually doing.
Right.
It was normal. I just got used to the fact that, oh, I just get spanked. You know what I mean? Because I grew up in a strict Christian home.
Right.
We didn't watch TV, none of that. Almost Amish. So basically, I got a whipping for anything.
Right.
I mean, even if I didn't think I did something wrong, I got a whooping.
Right.
So,
I hear you.
What's interesting is I didn't understand why. I'm like, because I didn't think I was doing anything wrong.
Exactly.
Okay. So to me, it was confusing. And my parents are like, well, they didn't understand why I wouldn't listen or why, I wouldn't follow the rules. So they would get angry.
Right.
But I think both of us were ignorant. See, both of us really didn't know what was going on. They were just doing what they thought was right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was doing what I thought was right, but we couldn't see it from the same perspective. We were looking at it from two different perspectives.
Right. Default bubbles.
And that was just passed down to them. This religion was passed on from their parents. So they're, since my parents did it, it must be the right thing to do. And there's some programs within religion that aren't really the truth. They're actually kind of like little demons hiding. Within the words, like little viruses in the program. And these viruses get in people's heads and they pass them on, So my parents had this virus and they weren't aware of it. And they passed it on to me through the words that they spoke. They're well, if you do this or this, it means you're this.
Right. Exactly. There's the rub of it. It means you are this. That's the conception that was implied. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and it came through my mother really the most. But you know what? I love my mother, and she really loved me and wanted the best for me. But she didn't know what she was doing.
Inappropriate application of goodness.
Yeah, she was. Yeah, exactly. She was good.
Right. But in applying it inappropriately. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't hold that against her.
No, you cannot. So that's why we shift and we say, for me not to fall into that trap, I need to develop my awareness.
And the intent of breaking generational curses, right? Or generational things like this. That's huge, having that realization.
And if you, Christianity teaches that concept. We have curses passed on to us.
But we can break them. We can break them.
And how do we break chains? We talked about this yesterday.
Yes. Yes, I'm listening. Exactly. How do we break the chains? The first step is that awareness, and that awareness connected to appropriateness, right?
And how I understood it, we're involved with spiritual warfare. From a Christian point of view, we call this spiritual warfare because they're energetic chains.
Yeah.
In
Interesting. Yeah, very powerful.
And the only thing that can break the chains is through the gospel, or the power of the living word, it's called.
Yeah.
And the living, and that's what we're doing right now. We're actually becoming the word.
Right. And that's why the chapter's called Just One Word. Exactly. I love this. I love how you connected to your personal experience, Ryan. And you're coming from your personal perspective. No, it's magical. It's magical. It doesn't matter whether we are Christians or whether we are Buddhists or whatever. It makes no difference. It's just what you are saying. You're relating this appropriately to your experience. And this is magical to you. I love it, man. It's very exciting to you.
Yeah, and it makes my whole childhood make sense.
Yes. Exactly.
It just, the way of impeccability, it just helps you make sense of the world. Make sense of yourself, really.
In this context of the cueing, the inadvertent cueing, and the default conceptions we develop as children, and how we behave even as adults in that cockeyed bubble related to these self-conceptions. Sure, I'm curious to hear your perspective on this.
Oh.
Hey, that was so communicative. It said so much. That was just brilliant.
There's a lot there.
Yes, I love it.
Okay, how do I sum up? Let me see.
Take your time. We in no hurry.
Sometimes you just don't know.
Well, no, I do know. It's just trying to put it into words. There's this whole visual thing, and I struggle sometimes with finding the words.
But that's the point too. Remember, we in practice mode.
Yes, I am in practice mode.
We just love that we can practice, so we can stumble along, we can figure it out, try. Okay, so hey, take your time. Practice.
Let's see what I went through as a kid. I'm still trying to determine whether or not, and understand. I'm still trying to understand. Where my parents were acting from, what values. I'm still trying to understand whether or not my father was acting out of a very distorted view of love, or, and did my mother have any really sense of love at all? She frequently told me I was an accident. And so, what I learned inappropriately was I was doing what I thought was good because I was being obedient. I was obeying everything my mom said. I was doing everything I could to get mother to, show me some kind of affection. And then I started reciprocating in the way that my father was showing me. So everything I was doing, I know now, was based on my perception of what love was, as inappropriate as it was.
Yeah.
So, and then to break that, it took somebody basically startling me into, more or less, they were trying to place shame on me when I shared with them what the story was. That's when I decided, no, I'm not going to take shame for this. There's something inherently wrong, and there's got to be a little bit more here. So, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question or not, but my concept on it, my takeaway on the whole thing is, I know I did good, and I'm never going to call what I did wrong.
Right.
I just can't see myself doing that. I can't see the way I responded as wrong. I responded appropriately to
Exactly. And you bring up a huge, absolutely huge point here. So when we start to really look, and particularly for those of us that know your history, and I don't want to go into the details of it, it's not necessary.
Right.
Right. So, but when we realize that we look at stupid things we did, just for argument's sake, in that bubble of unawareness, and like in your case, at the time, what you did, some might think, well, that was like, wow, but it just for argument's sake, was stupid. Because I, like Ryan, you did lots of stupid things also. I did lots of stupid things. We all did stupid things at some point as a childhood. However, at the time, like especially in your case, it was appropriate. There was no other choice. Based on what you knew, based on the circumstance, environment, you were being appropriate, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that's
Yes,
the point.
I firmly believe
And very deliberately so, you were being
Mhm.
appropriate. Now, when we really look carefully at this, we start to realize that when we start to go to that appropriateness, the concepts of the usual right and wrong, they kind of just go out the window. And it's
Yes.
a massive, massive shift. It's a very liberating shift to realize that right and wrong aren't absolutes. They are conditional. They are situational.
Absolutely.
And this
and when
is
you put it in that
very,
context,
very, very liberating, because we can
Yeah.
get hung up with guilt and shame for doing stuff that at the time you had no bloody conception different. You were being good in your own peculiar way. You were
Mhm.
being appropriate. There's no guilt and shame, no matter how idiotic or stupid the things were at the time. It makes no difference.
Exactly.
Even if they were bad at the time, doesn't matter. You were doing according to your goodness. Now, of course, you learn from it. You say, if I were in that situation again with the awareness I have now, I will completely do it differently, utterly, right?
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
it doesn't
and I
change.
teach differently. Yeah.
Exactly.
Um,
So we learn, we upgrade, we update. And sometimes being in a situation where we do things appropriately that aren't in the now sense something I would repeat, this is a way to learn also what it is that is good for us, what
Yes.
we believe is good and right. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, that's the only determinant. We are the ones who determine what's good and what's right.
You
There
see,
you go.
that's why I was asking earlier. Going back to the story, and I wrote this down. Is what do I subscribe to? Well, my core beliefs are that I was good, I am good, I know I'm good. All
Nice.
through from birth forward.
Right.
It's what I subscribe to externally that's changed.
Yes.
It's just my
Exactly.
external beliefs,
Exactly.
not my knowledge, my beliefs, and those change. Those stay fluid throughout your life.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
what I believed as a kid was okay. I learned didn't feel okay, and it wasn't okay, and and now I know it wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't.
Right. In other words, it's the application of your goodness which is
Yes.
shifting. And it's
Yes.
shifting to a more appropriate application of goodness.
There it is, right there. Yes.
That's huge. That's huge. And it's connected to your awareness. The more aware, the more you are able to be more appropriately apply your goodness. Yeah?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. That's it.
Why?
Thank you.
That's so huge. I just love it, Sher. I just love it. I just love it. So you know what else happened right now? You and I together, we constructed something, did we not?
Yes, we did actually.
That to me is so unbelievably magical when we combine and we collaborate and we say, hey, you know what? We kind of like, you put a bit, I put a bit, and we ended up creating something that was greater than the sum of the parts of our inputs. And
Yes.
we built something new and exciting. And that's part of the noble ideal, is that we take this, it's a groundwork, it's a starting point. Going forward, we are going to say, hey, this is what's important to me. This is what I think is valuable. Here's an idea. I don't know. Maybe I'll just throw it out there. Whatever. But we are building something greater than all of us. So a
Yes.
group communal noble ideal, which of course is going to say, well, that's my personal thing. I like that. Okay. So I'm not going to put in my precise predilection, which is, okay, I, like raw tomatoes every day, whatever. It doesn't have, it's very, I'm using a ridiculous example here, but just for example, to say that, hey, we're rather going to make this in a more general way, to say that the noble ideal, it's about the underlying concepts such as freedom, or concepts such as respect, concepts
Yes.
such as the implicit understanding that, hey, I take it absolutely for granted that you and you and you and you, all of you, have this deep, deep intent to goodness. That's unquestionable.
Yes.
That's like a starting
Yes.
point. Because when I do that, I say, okay, Sher comes on or Ryan comes on or whatever, and stuff's going on. And for whatever reason, let's just say, you say, hey, Sol, bugger off, get lost. You're being a ridiculous arsehole. So, okay, no problem. Whatever. I'll just have for argument's sake. Because why? I know that it doesn't put me out. It doesn't upset things. It doesn't change our deep, longer going relationship, because I know in some way this was just a bubble thing. Right? And
Yeah.
it's just so I know your intent to goodness is there. So however you behaved, it's whatever, for whatever reason. All right. Maybe it was that just there was a load of overload pressures and you were just kind of releasing and venting. Okay. Or it was a way for you to connect to deeper things within yourself. And this is really profound. This is really huge. Okay. Because I listen and I say, okay, I know there's a deep goodness to it. I just have to be patient. Let it work its way through. And sometimes we're in spots and our awareness might get limited for some reason or whatever. So sometimes we behave cockeyed, but the underlying always is good. Always, 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 always. And that is transformative when it comes to our group interactivity and just going forward, applying that to the world around us. When we
Right.
start to apply that, man, it is ridiculously, ridiculously transformative. It is really, when we make space and allowance. Now, of course, we aren't also going to have that sophistication of awareness that we also don't want to indulge people to say, hey, you know what? Some people say, oh, well, I'm just being me. And this is just an excuse for them being crappy and mean and nasty and not
Right.
making any effort to have tolerance and to work on their impatience and all stuff like that. So no, that's not cool either. But hey, we're making allowance for it all. So we want to share our awareness appropriately.
Right. That when Ryan had mentioned something about that, it was and he was able to make sense of his childhood and how his parents were. For me, that was pretty profound too. I mean, because yes, I was able to make sense through awareness, and through just really listening and observing and opening up my mind. I was able to make sense of my past and how I got to this point, and that for me was so comforting.
Yeah.
It was comforting in the sense of I was able to accept it because through rejecting everything and labeling everything in my life, including myself, as bad. Once I started to wear that label of bad on my chest, basically, more or less, just a metaphor. It was really, really, really tough to actually accept the idea that I am a good person.
Wow. Wow.
That was such a huge hurdle to cross. But once I was able to put a bridge there, that whole making sense of things. So thanks for that.
Yeah,
There.
man. I mean, just can you think of that from oh, sorry, Sher.
That's okay.
I'm getting no. I was making a comment on Facebook, and it showed you still talking, but because it's on delay, so
Okay.
oh my goodness, I'm interrupting here, but I was just seeing the delay anyway. But that concept, just that idea, to realize that people get into a bubble of believing that I am bad, I'm not good, for no good reason whatsoever. I know this is just horror to me.
Yeah.
This is like just horrible, just something that, man alive, this if there's anything that from us being in a different way, if there was a ripple effect to something cascading, like going viral, is this idea of our inherent intent to goodness.
Yeah.
And also in your situation, just one idea, there are other options.
Yes.
When you were a child, they weren't. Ryan, when you were a child, they weren't, right? That was it. Your world was limited. You didn't have options, or you didn't believe you had options. This idea that there are options was just not part of the default. Now, if the fact that there are always options, if that can somehow get into the default, man, what a difference it can make.
Exactly. Well, see, that's why I said there's a connection there. And to me, anyways, there's like this really beautiful filament, a thread, so to speak.
Yes.
That connects
Yes.
For me anyways, yeah.
Just unbelievably massive and huge. That connectivity. That's exactly
Yeah.
what I am making an effort to connect to and to, really be fully, deeply aware of that, hey,
Yes.
there's more here. There's a more here.
There is. And I knew there had to be. That's why I said, I mean, before I, you read it, you know the story.
Yes.
I just knew that there had to be something else. There had to be one more try.
Yes. Yes. Thank heavens. Thank heavens. Thank heavens.
And so, yeah, somewhere along the line, somebody made sure to plug in that connection for me just that one more time.
Yes, one more time. I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. And
Yeah.
what a magical one more time. Yeah, Ryan, go ahead.
No, it just, all these things just remind me of, childhood Bible stories and that I learned. So I always think about these. So it comes up for me a lot.
I love it. I love it. And when you share those Bible stories, because you're sharing them from a point of view that this was something that was personal to you, and you share the personal relevance and the personal connectivity and how it personally meant something to you. I love hearing that, Ryan. It's just fantastic. So is what I'm asking here in a roundabout way is that is there a Bible story that comes up to you now that has a personal relevance and pertinence to the then?
Right, and to what Cher was saying.
Yeah, which is the story that comes up for you? I'm curious.
Right. It's not particularly like a story. It's just like a quote or a saying.
Yeah.
Like a wise saying.
Right.
And there was these disciples, and Jesus was teaching them. He was training them how to be more, right? And
yeah.
They asked him, how many times are we supposed to forgive a person? And he's like, are we like supposed to forgive them 7 times? Because it was in their custom.
Right.
7 like a number of completion. And he's like, that's what the law says, but I tell you, you need to forgive 70 times 7. So basically what he was telling them in a nutshell is there's always room for more forgiveness.
Yeah.
And Cher, she was just saying there's always room for more. It just reminded me there's never an end to the amount of forgiveness you can receive or give.
That's right.
Love you can receive or give, or any of that.
I want to add one point to this. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
It's run out. That's all. It just reminded me of that.
Does that also apply to yourself?
Oh yeah.
Right. I realize that it's and it's like a duh.
Right. Yeah.
But it's one of those does that are very transformative and profound because we always tend to think out there. But man, when it comes to ourselves, well, that's 70 times 70 times 7 times 7 times another 7, exponential. That has to apply to ourselves because we are perpetual nincompoops, and that's just the process.
Well, the actual true application of unconditional love and forgiveness, like practicing that. That's what I'm working on.
Nice. I love that. I love that.
Here.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. Oh, so exciting.
Right, when you do it for yourself.
Right. Just again, Ryan, the Bible and you quoting from it, it's a deep part of you, and also you're taking it and you translating it into the appropriateness of now, the appropriateness of where you are at now. So the way you told that story, look, you added in that conception of more, which isn't in the original text. But man, when you added just that one thing which is pertinent to you personally, when you added that in, it transformed the whole story. And when you see how this is meaningful to you, this becomes meaningful to us.
Yeah, I feel like
I love that, man. I just love it. It's really huge. So please don't feel constrained to share is what I'm trying to say. Just because not everybody's a Christian doesn't matter. Look like when Beena's here. And where is Beena, come to think of it? When Beena's here, she says stuff from the Quran. And man, when you hear how she makes it personal and how it's for her and her view of it, it's like it just blows your mind to say, wow, here's somebody that's bringing a very different conception of the thing into our typical default Western idea of the Quran. It's like this profound, spiritual, deep, magical, awesome, noble conceptuality. Now, of course, she's also personalizing it. She's saying her personal experience, and it's just very magical, very, very magical. While I'm connecting to Beena here and see where she is, because I miss you, Beena. She's usually on in the morning, so I'm keen to hear from Donna. If you have anything, if not, Donna, no problem. I just always very keen to hear from you.
Oh, baby.
Say again.
I was just waiting to see the baby.
Oh, okay. I'm just keen to hear from you, Donna. Just anything, just where you're at, what you're feeling, any perspectives, anything at all. Just keen to hear. If not, no problem. If you're in thinking and listening and receiving mode, all good. I just want to check,
Ryan, is this your wife?
Yep.
Oh, she's
Is Janelle
beautiful.
joining us? Brilliant. Hey, hi
Hi,
Janelle.
oh.
So that's Sher, and you've met Jane, I think, right, Jane?
And the babies.
And the baby. Brilliant. All right, awesome.
Aw.
All right, awesome. That's Aurora, the magical baby.
Oh, how beautiful.
Yeah, Ryan has fabulous kids, and Janelle has fabulous kids. They are just fabulous parents. So, yeah, most excellent. So, Janelle, I'm assuming you've been listening a little bit, yeah?
Well, no.
Okay. No worries. So what we were just discussing. I'm not going to go the whole discussion, just the last point. The last point of taking our personal experiences, our personal connectivity to how we grew up and what's relevant and personal to us, and sharing it and sharing how it personally connects to us, how magical that is. In other words, Ryan we were talking about something, and what we were talking about, it brought up a quote from the Bible in him, and he shared how that quote is meaningful to him and how it's relevant to him. And that was really magical for us to hear how that had meaning and relevance, and also how he was adapting it to the particulars of the situation. Because he added the quote, and he added just the more in it. You know how we love more, the word capital M, more, right? And he added that in there, and how he was customizing it. So we're hearing how Ryan's connectivity to the Bible, it is meaningfulness for him. And I also am aware that you grew up in a similar type of an environment where the Bible was a daily thing and a big deal. And you've shifted in terms of where you're at now. But the point I want to make here is that we are keen to hear that, your personal connectivity to the Bible. So don't inhibit sharing it. Like, in other words, in this case, Ryan used a quote from the Bible to exemplify and illustrate how he was feeling about things, how it was relevant to him, how it was meaningful to him. And that is what we want to hear. When we share that, our personal perspectives and connectivity. Now, like I was saying just a moment ago, like when it's with Beena, sometimes she'll use the Quran because that's a very powerful influence in her life. And she'll share her personal connectivity. Of course, she'll never preach it to us because she's very open and she has friends that are in every possible religion. Beena really has a remarkable collection of friends. So it's really profound when we hear things from the inside, as it were. So I'm keen when you share also, not to hold back on that just because you might think that, hey, that's your thing or whatever. No, it's appropriate. We're hearing it according to how it is for you. We realize you're not saying that we have to necessarily believe in what you believe. That we understand that that's a default. But when you share your personal connectivity, it's really magical, because these stories, when we look at them from that point, they always have value. Right? Especially when we share our personal connectivity with it. For me, it means this. For me, it means that. This is a profound thing. And I'm emphasizing this a little bit because we are also in the greater context of what we are doing now. We are shifting to looking to emphasize and pay attention to a noble ideal, a collective noble ideal. Now, I'm using that word noble ideal simply because we're in want of a word, and maybe that will change over time. But so when we share what is powerful and meaningful to us individually, that every time is a contribution to say, hey, this is my particular personal connectivity to the noble ideal. I would love to know what you're saying, Aurora. I feel like that was something very appropriate there. Very appropriate. So You tell me later, when you can, in a couple of years' time, you tell me what you mean by your version of the noble ideal. Okay, I hear you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So this is very key. It's very important to share our personal connectivity to what's meaningful to us. It's valuable to hear, and all of us, I feel like I can safely speak for all of us. When we listen to each other and we listen to what's important to the individual, it is just, I don't know, for me, I can't get enough of it. It's like, man, it's so awesome. It's so magical. It's so powerful. Especially when, okay, yes, we've been listening to a lot of stuff like in the past stuff, but when we listen to it from the other end, we listen to it kind of like in a kind of a way future, but we're saying, hey, this is what's really meaningful to me, what's really significant, what's really purposeful, what's important, what I wish to see in my life as a mourners. This is just huge, just huge. And that's why I was kind of asking to hear from Donna a little bit there. All right, brilliant. I think we are going to get Beena joining us in a moment. So, okay, let me just send her the link here. So, Donna, I don't want to press you, Donna. I don't know, maybe just, in the energy space where you don't feel like talking or sharing. And that's totally cool, of course. But, inclusivity, we were talking about this yesterday. It's such a big deal to me. And I so love hearing from everyone and, Donna. So I don't know mean to be exclusive is the point, I guess. So
Just take in the different stories.
Yeah.
You can relate to all of them. As far as looking at the past situation and children, being a child rather, I don't really have a lot of memories of it, of my childhood. And it's a mixed bag. And it seems as though whatever it was, I'm at peace with it was that way for a reason. And we all gain from it. And as far as the religious upbringing, I appreciate what Ryan says, and sometimes I get in a bubble of reversing kind of, since I went through religion being such an emphasis, and for me, it was very limiting and very judgmental. Now I don't want to find myself in a bubble of being anti anything. And realizing that when you share something, you're sharing it from your experience and your life and something that's profound and means something to you. And I appreciate that. And sometimes I do get in a bubble where I immediately put up my, oh, here we go, religious talk. I don't want to hear that kind of thing. I don't want to do that with you. So I'm just being real. Yeah. And it's shifting. I don't feel as much that way anymore. And that's why I'm really listening today. A lot of things are shifting. And with that shift, even when you hear what other people are saying, it's, I don't know, it's just kind of, it's a very cool thing. And I really don't feel any profound words to add to it because you guys are all pretty awesome. That's all I'm feeling.
I love it, Donna. But you know what you just said really stimulated for me something. It's that here, that concept of here. You said it as like capital H here. So in other words, for me, what I'm taking away from it, it's like when we shift to really listening to what somebody's saying and we unhook from our default things like, oh, yeah, they go again. And we start to hear what they're really saying. The moreness, in other words, the intent underlying it, the abstract conceptuality, then we start to hear that intent to goodness. Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
And that's magical, right?
It's very magical.
And so we hear past the words.
Right.
That's capital H here for me. And that's what I was saying with Ryan's story and just Ryan in general, and same with you, Janelle, and Cher and Erica and you, Donna, and everyone. When we start to hear past the words, man, then just stuff starts to come alive. And we hear that intent to goodness. We hear the magic. We hear the sobriety. We hear what we are, our challenges, our struggles, and also our awesomeness, and how we are persisting, and how we are continuing. We just hear that goodness, and we hear that awesomeness. And we can never get enough of that when we really start to hear. When we hear that moreness, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable how it is so ridiculously transformative. I just can never get enough of it. Just unbelievably magical.
If Donna knew who my grandpa was, she would understand why it's so ingrained in me.
Yeah.
It's hard to get it out of me because it's passed down from generations. Because my grandfather he's a country gospel singer, and he dedicated his whole life to writing. He wrote over 600 songs, and all the songs were pretty much about love.
Wow.
And prayer and the power of the spoken word. And so he sang songs about love to homeless people, people in mental institutions, and literally healed people.
Wow.
Mental conditions through singing songs about love.
Wow.
And, it was all based on the Bible. He was Christianity.
Right.
So it stemmed from there. But it was ingrained in me as a child. I would watch him sing and hear him sing when I was really little.
Right.
So that's just a big part of it.
It's exciting what you're saying, though. If you're singing, and usually when you're singing, excuse me, dang, when we sing and music, the underlying abstract mood that usually comes through beyond the words. And that's what I heard you saying, that just by implication, when you were singing in those type of institutions, people heard the deeper underlying message that this is about love. The format in which it was expressed happened to be Christianity, but it just didn't really matter. It just happened to be his default. It didn't really matter. The deeper abstract what counted.
But I know
yes, it's about the deeper abstract.
Yes. And I know firsthand the power of the spoken word because I watched my grandpa literally heal people. The mental institutions always wanting them to come back.
Interesting.
They're like, our patients, they get better after you come and sing.
Wow.
Yeah. Medications and they act better. And they're
there's much that can be done in simple ways, just through the communication of that underlying energy of the intent to goodness. How precisely, the precise details and mechanisms, that's the thing. But so when we really realize this, that all we have to actually do is just be good, then we start to unhook from the specific applications, and we realize just being good it puts that out there, and that's enough. It's just more than enough. And now we are not specifying the details, the preciseness of how you individually get to be good and choose your choices. That's up to you how you choose. But just putting out this energy of goodness, this is a positive contagion that we wish to spread in the world. So and that's all we do. So we don't press on anybody. In other words, we don't give specifics. That's for them to choose. But we are just saying, here's an option. Here's an option. Here's an option. And that is ridiculously, massively huge. And that's also ethical, right? The share option.
I want Donna to know that obviously my intent isn't to, hurt anybody.
Right, exactly.
Anybody or anything. And that's why I'm doing this program. Doing this program so I can share the same message that I'm wanting to share in a way where
Part of war.
What's that?
Can we finish this first?
Oh, sorry. But I want to share it in a way that people actually hear what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They hear my heart and what my heart's trying to say, not because through religion has these negative things attached to it. So I get what Donna's saying and I understand. You know what I mean?
Why?
It's like, like dirty. But the way of impeccability, literally, you're sharing the same message.
to share appropriately, in other words, and to really get that sophistication of communication is
Yes.
very profound. Also,
Yeah.
Donna, if I might say, just Donna, in your past, you've also been the one to share or put out the religious stuff, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, Donna's also saying it from the other side. She's been that person to inappropriately push the stuff out.
Well, you know, and
We've all been knuckleheads at some point.
oh yeah, I've done that too.
Right. Sure. Sorry, Ryan. I was keen to hear Sher's comment there. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's for both Donna and Ryan, and actually for the whole group. First off, I wanted to say that when I hear everybody else's messages, whether it's about, especially when it comes to their particular faith, I just listen and I absorb everything I can get, because I don't subscribe or practice to any particular religion. I did growing up. I mean, several different ones: Baptist, Catholic, Methodist, Lutheran, and then I just kind of washed them all away. And now I have one, and that's God and my perception of my God. So I love hearing everybody's perception on it, and how it applies to them in their life. Because sometimes I can take those pieces and apply them to my life, which is really, really, to me, what it's all about, what it should be. And then secondly, my question. I've got this huge question, and I want to know everybody's answer.
Hey, love questions. Love questions.
I need to know your thoughts about this. And it goes back to goodness. Do you believe that that we are all born being good, and does something change it? I mean, are we all born good? Everybody, including the criminals, the murderers, the rapists, are they good?
I'll answer that question first if I can.
Okay.
If you guys allow me to.
Go ahead.
Because this is big for me. This is like my whole life. Okay, is based on this subject. So I've thought about this a lot, and I've struggled with it a lot. Like, who am I? Answering that question first. Am I good? So the answer is yes, you were born good, and you have always been good. You've never been bad. Okay? So, and how I understand it, for me, right?
Nice, Ryan. Nice.
I'm learning.
Again, that's a huge thing that Ryan just did. Sorry to interrupt you, but I do like to emphasize, when we deliberately implement a practice, a new shifting of habits, and Ryan adding that, for me, it's a big deal. That for me is profoundly transformative. It changes everything that we're saying, just to add that little bit of, just that little for me, just every now and then throw it in there, changes what we say. So I want to just kind of connect on this and really emphasize it, because it's huge, Ryan. It's huge. It's huge. Right. Awesome, man. Awesome. Anyway, carry on.
The truth as I know it is, I am not who I think I am. And what you see here, you see this face and this body?
Yeah.
This is not who I am. Okay?
Yes.
Now, sometimes that's hard to understand, because we've identified as this body, as this face, our name, everything, our whole lives. We've looked in the mirror and been like, that's who I am. People say things like, oh, that's who I am because they said that about me, so I must be that, right? But you're more than that. You're more than just this body. You're not even this.
Right.
And that's what we need to understand, is that we are spiritual beings living in a physical body.
That I do subscribe to. Yep.
Okay. So you, as a spirit being, are perfect. You have never been less than perfect. And again, what the Bible says about our beginning, or where we came from as spiritual beings, is we were born of God, and we are all children of God.
Right.
Okay, and we're like little babies that were born into this world as little spirits.
There you go.
There you go. An experience in this body. We're using this body to have an experience. Now, this body, it gives us gifts. but these gifts don't always seem like gifts. The gift of the gift of what would you call it? Discipline. Being
Wow.
disciplined, we think, is not really a gift, but it's this gift. And this mind, it's intentionally was corrupted. We wanted this mind to be all chaotic because from the chaos, we know that order can be born from that. But if it was perfect to begin with, what's the point of learning? There would be nothing to learn.
It's to do it deliberately, yes?
Deliberately, right. So in order...
That's the key.
Right. In order to be able to deliberately do things, this mind had to be all scrambled and cockeyed and messed up so that we could figure out how to use it. It's
right.
like
the chaos forces us to deliberately choose.
So
which means if we deliberately choosing, sorry, Ryan, I just want to put this out there. If we are deliberately choosing, it's because we ourselves decide it's right for us. In other words, we create that conscious deliberation, and that is huge, yeah?
Oh, where's Rachel? She needs to hear this.
Yes, I've sent the invite. I don't know. So it may be just her time there. I don't know. She's in England. So,
Okay.
We identify as our mind, and we have a lot of different identities in our mind. We can think we're a lot of different people and a lot of different people.
Yeah.
But when we identify as the mind, we're not identifying as our real self. Okay. We have to, through discernment. So like you talk about, that discernment, which comes from awareness, is huge because it allows us to be able to know the difference between, is that my real self or is that one of my alter egos?
Okay, that I get.
That I've created, right?
Through combination of awareness and discernment, we come to understanding, yes?
Understanding, exactly. So we begin to understand that who we thought we were, which is this bad person. We can think we're this bad person, but it's just a little bubble that we are living in.
Just watch that right elbow there, please, man. It's making me nervous.
Have you ever seen Brian, are you familiar with Doctor Who at all?
Doctor Who?
Yeah.
The TV series, the science fiction TV series, Doctor Who. It's a British TV series.
Yeah, for whatever reason, the Daleks are coming to mind. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Sil.
Okay, you have to kind of know the series. The Daleks are these robotic creatures, that just like kill humans, right?
But inside are
right.
these
There's
tiny
the little
itty-bitty creatures
wow.
that are just beautiful beings, and all they want to be is good, and they just want to kill the evil.
Inappropriate application of goodness taken to extremes. Right. It's really huge. It's really huge.
So
really huge.
I hope that answered the question, are we good? Yes.
Or at least do we personally believe that we are inherently good?
I believe
specific on the question.
And here's the thing though, that's really what this whole experience is about. It's about, who do you believe you are?
Yes. Even more so, who do you know you are? One thing I feel I know indisputably is that I have an intent to goodness. Now, I differentiate this a little
right there.
Right. And I make a specificness in discernment. Before that, I do that, I just want to say, hello, Beena. Beena said she wasn't on earlier because she hasn't been feeling well. So, hey, Beena, I'm hoping you come on and this will make you feel better. So, I'm thrilled that you're here. So, magical. So, hello, wonderful. And if possible, Beena, I want to hear from you on this as well. So I want to just differentiate here, and I'm very keen to hear from Erica Jane. Hello, Beena. Hello. Oh, good to hear you, man. Good to hear you. Are you feeling better already?
Yes, actually, I have cold, so it's a lot of sneezing. So I will keep myself mute.
Okay. Wow. All right. Well, we're pleased to hear. Magical.
Thank you.
Magical. Yes. Brilliant. All right. So, and I'm very keen to hear on this from Eric as well. I just wanted to share real quick for me, because I want to make this distinction between, for me personally, I feel that I have an inherent intent to goodness, which shifts it for me slightly. And that's just the way my brain happens to work. Because if I say I am good, I say, and yeah, Rachel comes into it that Sher mentioned. Because Rachel's saying, yeah, you know what, I did bad stuff in my life and I don't really feel that I am good. But if we just listen to what people think and say and do and how they act, we see there's an intent to goodness. Now, that intent can be inappropriately applied, which is why I make the distinction. So for me, when I say I have an intent to goodness as opposed to I am good, and I'm going to come back to this in a moment, Ryan, because it's contextual also. Yes, in the greater over universal context, absolutely. There, I am totally good. Right. However, in the me of now and here, in this little bubble me, my physical me, I'm not can yet connected to that full goodness. That's my journey. That's my process. In other words, that's also when I say I have that intent to goodness, it implies to me and it means to me that I'm on my journey towards that fullness of myself, which is goodness. So it also implies that it's an intent to goodness, which means it might be in the process of now inappropriately applied. So it makes me a bit cautious to not assume that just by default everything I do is automatically good. No, I have to develop that discernment, that awareness, that understanding, so that my intent becomes appropriately expressed. And here we have the connectivity of our entire discussion. It brings the magic of appropriateness into application, so that it's all about how I appropriately apply my intent to goodness, which leverages my awareness, my understanding, my discernment, my sophistication, my strategy, every single thing, my energy management. Because, of course, if I'm low energy, it's easier to be, and it takes less energy to be negative than to positive. So my intent to goodness sometimes suffers when I'm low energy. So for just as a specific application, so it leads us to energy management being really profound, because that allows us to more appropriately apply. Beena's connection is giving her a hard time. It's so sad. She has really poor internet connection, so it drops off. But anyway, she'll be back. So this is really powerful to make that distinction, not only between the now and the greater. And in other words, for me personally, I see that we are goodness. However, we need to peel the layers of that moreness so that we can reveal that to us. So it's a process of uncovering ourselves rather than discovering or finding or adding this. This is a huge conception shift that is profoundly valuable. But meantime, also, there's that intent to goodness. Now we go into it a little bit deeper. We say an intent to goodness. An intent is something that we put out there. Just having goodness doesn't necessarily mean I'm doing something about my goodness. An intent to goodness, this is me putting out something as an intent, which is a power, which is a force, which is a happening, which is stuff to do there. So this comes back at me in terms of how the world reacts and relates to me. So now I see my own intent to goodness manifested and reflected in the world around me. And this is huge. So when I realize that, everything I see around me, it is the application and the description and the implementation of my intent to goodness. Now I look at the world differently. I start to say everything is here for the purposes of getting me from where I'm at now to the fullness of my real self-goodness. And this is profoundly transformative when we realize the entire world is geared to actually facilitating that intent to goodness that we have. This is just unbelievably huge. I don't know what that sound was, but that just sounded like, man, like, I don't know, sort of a universal wow.
Right.
That's what I heard. That's just magical. Erica, I feel stuff bubbling out there, so I'm keen to hear. It's okay. We just mute.
There we go.
That's fine. We just mute.
Yeah, man. Wow. There have been so many thoughts and things coming up while I've been listening here, and I am practicing the skill that you're always talking about of holding on to your thoughts and trying to make them all, make sense and not forget them. So I'm
nice.
To me, all of this stuff is like swirling around, but in the context of Cher's question, and I'm going to try to make this make sense, because like I said, this is all just like, everything is just swirling around. It comes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of the call with the Biella story, of it really, you know, the idea of waking up and not really remembering who you are, or having to really observe the world around you and understand your place in it and see, you know, what all is happening. That is what we are doing when we are born, right? We're born into this world with no concept of self or of what's going on, and we have to observe and learn and understand our place in the world. And I do believe that we are inherently good, you know, we're born inherently good, but that our concept of what good is, or our intent to goodness, becomes shaped, especially very early on when you're a child, by what you're observing around you. And so, you know, everybody's talking about as a child, you know, trying to understand the intent of your parents and understand, you know, you get these conceptions of yourself. And it's all kind of based on what everyone else is telling you is good, and your idea of should and all of that. And, you know, Ryan, everybody was sharing the idea of, I love, Sil, what you were saying about that we start becoming something because other people are telling us that's who we are, that we're, you know, deriving that concept of ourselves from other people's sort of projection or conception of us. And I think that's huge. As a kid, you're being told, you know, who you are by your parents or by the rest of the world around you. But it not only applies from the aspect of if you are being bad or you're doing something, you know, wrong because that's what someone else is telling you are, it also applies from a sense of good. And, you know, we're talking about the idea of sort of a inappropriate application of goodness, and, you know, your parents are doing that. You also pick that up. And I'm thinking, you know, in my experience, I had a wonderful upbringing. I had very loving parents that I really connected with. But I realized, so I was kind of held to this ideal of perfection and of you know, really goodness and being good and being obedient all the time. And that became something, you know, I felt this pressure to be good in the sense of what everyone else around me was telling me good was. And so, you know, I didn't have this, I didn't act out. I wasn't bad, you know, when I was a kid. I felt all this pressure to be good in the sense of what, you know, I was being told, oh, you're so smart, you're so good, you're doing all these things. And I felt this constant pressure of having to live up to that ideal without realizing that I didn't really know what good meant to me. I was trying to, you know, be good in their terms, not necessarily in mine. And so, you know, you were saying the other day about the idea of kids being disobedient or sort of rebellious, and, you know, stepping out and saying, no, I have my own idea of what this should be. And that applies not only with bad, but with good, that if your parents are telling you, you are good, and, you know, you're doing so well, and you're so smart, or you're so great, or whatever, that if you're not associating good with the same things, and you start to sort of stray from that, if the intent to goodness is still there, you're not saying, if I'm not good in terms of what they think good is, that means I'm bad.
Right.
You're redefining what good means to you. And in that case, disobedience, or having that individuality and that individual sense of goodness, that's a really good thing to be saying, no, I don't necessarily agree with that. But that's a huge, I mean, on the other side of the coin of, you know, trying to kind of rewrite what you think bad is, or realizing that you were never bad. If you haven't really had that sense of yourself, but you've had a sense of goodness that is maybe an inappropriate application of goodness, that you have to rewrite that as well. And you have to really realign that with what resonates with you. And that, I think, has been a huge part of my experience. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting to think about all of these things that we're taking in as kids, and how being good, and really it comes down to finding out what good means to you, and that is a inherently unique experience, that we are all good in the sense that we are true to, when we are born with a very inherent, raw, real trueness to ourself and our own sense of goodness, but that gets skewed as we observe, as we take in. And this whole process of learning and growth as we grow is trying to kind of shed or separate those ideas of, well, where did I get this idea of good? Was that something that I was born with that's really inherent, true, real to me? Or did I pick this up from someone else in a sense of should, and really peeling that back and understanding? Exactly. And really trying to understand that. Yes, choosing what is good to you.
Deliberately choosing in deliberate conscious awareness. When we make that choice for ourselves, then it becomes real. If we just do good because somebody said it's good, and we just do it out of obedience, how real is it really? Or we're doing it out of fear of punishment, or we're doing it because there's a reward involved. That's not goodness. Right. So choosing what is appropriate goodness for you, and doing so deliberately. That's the magic. When we do so in deliberate, full conscious, we make it our own, we make it real, and now that goodness becomes real, not just default, because otherwise it's just a program, right?
Right, absolutely.
Right.
And
so
that's a huge part to me of this whole process that I think all of us are on right now, of really revealing ourselves. Is, now we're kind of stopping and going, okay, all of these ideas of self that I have, that I've acquired, that I've been all these cues, all these things that I've gotten, what is really true and real to me, and what is something that, someone else gave to me, or that I took in. And that's really what we're all doing right now, is trying to differentiate, trying to really get down to what is really real to us, and what is part of that kind of should culture and idea.
Making our goodness our own.
Yes.
That's the process.
Yeah.
That's the process.
Absolutely.
So magical. And look at the greater, awesome magicness of it. We have Ryan's upbringing. We have Sher's childhood. We have Donna's childhood. Beena, you. All of them coming at these profoundly different angles. And we are seeing, some of us had childhoods where we really struggled, and we had kind of negativity and horror and kind of mindless people. So, and to the thing where, okay, you had a really idyllic supposed to be childhood. But all of them lead to the same point, that we have to decide for ourselves what's going on. And we see that even though we're coming at these things from this profoundly different perspective, if we look at each of us here as different aspects of ourselves, we say, oh, you know what? That path that Erica chose, didn't necessarily result in the end point that I'm after either. Ryan's path, Sher's path, Donna's path, Beena's path, all of them had limitations. And when we click to what is necessary in every single path, that intent to choose for ourselves, that intent to self-determination, that's the underlying core thing that I take out. So my intent to goodness for me also means an intent to choose for myself.
Right.
To make it my own, to make it real. Say again, Sher?
Yes.
So our past doesn't matter. Honestly, it doesn't.
Makes no damn difference. And it doesn't matter whether it's a negative past or a happy, makes no difference.
We all get to where we are right now anyway. This question.
Exactly.
So what's my problem?
Exactly. But here's a big profound point that really comes to me that's huge in this. For those of us that didn't have particularly fantastically pleasant upbringings, we could say, look at Erica's upbringing in this sense, right? How that could be a profound trap. Okay, when we have negativity and crap and nonsense in our past, that kind of is a very profound pressure to get out of that. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Erica, in her situation, everything was good and ideal and it's happy family. That could easily have locked her into a situation where she just accepted that and went along with it and essentially lived the life of a robot and a program. There's a great danger in the positivity of Erica's upbringing. A very, very profound danger. Well, to me at least, it's potentially a trap. Now, yes, I mean, it's just awesome that Erica has stepped out of that and has realized that as good as it was, I need to question it. I need to make my goodness my own. But it's so easy, and I think even more easy for me personally, I feel this, to fall into the trap of not coming to deliberate, conscious choice of independence of being in Erica's situation than it was, say, in yours, Sher, or in yours, Ryan. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a profoundness, and that kind of makes us rethink that, oh, wow, we said, wow, maybe I would have rather have gone Erica's path. That would have been a lot more fun and a lot more pleasant. But there's also a big risk to it, yeah? Whereas you guys in that stress and pressure, and I admire your courage. In my personal belief, I think we choose the circumstances of our things. And it's not a belief that I believe as an actual fact. It's a choice that I use as a strategic leverage because it just opens the idea. What if we chose the circumstances of our birth?
Yeah.
I think that you guys made very courageous choices.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. You know, it's like,
Mhm.
Erica, okay, that's kind of like an easy way out. It is everything like an easy path to choose. But okay, it worked for you. It was appropriate for you. So we can't say when we choose that, who knows why we choose. I'm just saying there are reasons that are really, for me, just magically significant to
Being lazy.
how we choose. It just leverages us and puts us into a different space. But also to not feel like, well, there are better ways. There are appropriate ways. It's appropriate to us. And this thing of like I say, Erica's thing might seem idyllic, but what a profoundly sophisticated potential trap that we might not realize. So when we look at things that way, it's like, oh man, I'm kind of pleased that I chose my path. Yeah.
Mhm.
It gives us peace. So it's just very magical because I do know people that are still trapped and have spent their whole lives. I grew up, the first community I was in was like Ryan's community. It was one step away from being Amish, essentially. And they were all locked into that conformity and obedience, that trap of the idyllic goodness. And it's a profoundly dreadful trap. And I saw them suffer from it. And man, it just leveraged me. So I was very thankful for that in my early life, that I could see it from a point of remove and realize that this is not so.
They do that here in my town. They're just also narrow-minded.
They're stuck. But they're
Very
stuck in goodness. They're stuck in inappropriate goodness. That was the point. People I knew, they were deeply, deeply good people. Earnestly good people. And that's where the term earnest good people comes from, for me, comes from that. But they were stuck. And they were stuck and they were unhappy and miserable and joyless lives. And they were even worse. They felt themselves to be inadvertent hypocrites. And they couldn't help it. And they were stuck because they're trying to be obedient, but yet they disagree. And man alive, did this eat them up, right? It's a sad business. So for me, this is a real powerful thing. If they just add that awareness that there are other options, and that profound idea that Erica shared, this idea that being disobedient, deliberate disobedience, is a necessity. It's a good thing. It is huge. And now, okay, I'll bring in, for me also, I have a very Christian upbringing. I'll bring in the story of Adam and Eve and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And for me, what I take away from that in this context, right? It's a profound story. I love that story on many reasons. But one of the profound things is that tree was placed in the middle of the garden. It's like, if you really don't want them to eat that tree, don't put it in the middle of the garden. In other words, the greater logic of it, and of course, when we think from God logic, we've got to assume there's a greater, deeper logic. The greater logic for me personally, I take from that it was a suggestion to be deliberately disobedient. Now, when I look at that story from this context, man, this story now takes on a much sublime significance for me, and I just love it. It becomes a truly magical story. Not just a story the way I was taught that this is a story of obedience and disobedience and all of this, which just it distorts the whole story. I get so much more out of it when I look at it in the greater context and a bigger shift of perspective. When I see it in that context, especially, it becomes profound. It really becomes profound. So I love this perspective shifting, the magic of it, just throwing that in there as well a little bit. That story has lots for me. We'll get into it another day. It's a fun story. But it's just really huge. Beena, I'm assuming you're still here. Yeah, here you go. Just keen to hear from you real quick. Any thoughts on the stuff that we're talking about? The question that Sher asked is, do we individually here, all of us, believe that we are born good? That's how you asked the question, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting the question right. Please
She's
repeat
asking, do you believe that we are, as individuals, everybody in the world, do you believe people are born inherently good?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because I believe in that because, and this is what I feel, even after we do something bad, which we assume that, okay, it was something really bad I did or he did or she did, but it's still the intent behind that. And if we just look at that in different perspective or just deeper, almost always we can find something really magical behind that, even behind that really cruel and disastrous text, but you can find that the person behind that just assumed that it was good. So the goodness behind is yes, always there, and it actually never goes away, which is again amazing.
Yeah.
Magical. We do a lot of things in our life, and I have this experience recently. One of my friends shared a lot of stuff about himself and a lot of things, and he was expecting me to react in a different way and assume him in a different perspective. I will see him, but for me it was strange that because nothing changed at all. So and I feel that the person is same and he was sharing with me, so okay, he did that, so what? Okay, now we will see in a different light, in a different perspective, all the things. And even like when a person is sharing something and he's or she is accepting that, oh, I did something bad, it means that he already or she already knew that, and out of that phase of that badness in them. So it means that they are not bad at all. So
The implication, right. That's the
yes,
implication is huge here. Sorry.
yeah, they already crossed the boundaries or the borders and limitations of that badness. So it means that they are accepting. So they are looking their actions in past tense. It means they are no more that person, not anymore that person. So it means they are good again. So for me, it was like, okay, yes, you did. So now he says, no, nothing. I'm just looking at myself and accepting and taking all the responsibilities and all this stuff. So for me, it become more obvious that he is a good person.
Yes, yes. You're making a very sophisticated, nuanced point here, Beena.
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love it. Sorry, I just want to articulate that what Beena's saying is she's kind of jumping and she has this magnificent ability to jump kind of to the end of things, and she's taking what we said and just extrapolating it into a really fine point here. In essence, I mean, if I were to recapitulate what you say to make it more basic, because that's just how my mind works, Beena, I have to get it down to the basics, is you are saying that when we feel bad about something, that right there, by implication, means we are good.
Yes, conscious.
Yeah, because by acknowledging that you are bad or did something bad, you can only do that if you have a connectivity to goodness. Yeah?
That's perfect.
Yes, and that acceptance.
Yeah.
If a person is accepting, it means that he or she already elevated from that state and now looking at his or her own things in an abstract view, an overview, and zoom out and looking, and that leverage is just making him or her good.
Yes.
So it means that he's a good person now, right now, in this moment.
Right. So I'm hearing something else that is kind of just to re-express it. It's
Yes.
also, I'm hearing in what you're saying, there's an implication to make a discernment between my actions and who I am. To not confuse my action, to say I did something bad. That doesn't mean that I am bad. That's the default. But you are saying shift that connection, that association to say, if I realize I am bad, that means I have an awareness of good and bad. And by feeling bad about my actions, this means
Yes.
I'm actually good. So to not get into that default to say, oh, I did something bad, that means I'm a bad person.
No,
Right? To
no,
shift it.
no.
Say, oh,
Yes.
I did something bad. Yes, I acknowledge it, I own it, and it was a bad thing I did. But that doesn't mean that I am bad. The very fact that I feel bad means actually in deep down in me, I'm a good person. And okay, I was inappropriately expressing my goodness in some way, and that resulted to so-called badness. That's a
Yes,
huge shift.
that's simple awareness of my own actions. Okay, yes, I did something bad. It means that I'm not relating. I'm no more that person who
Yes.
somehow did all these things.
Yes.
So that
Yes.
just awareness at that's very moment, you are no more that person. I am no more that person. It means that I'm elevated from that. So that's it. So even like Cher said that we born with that goodness inside everybody, and it is always there. I believe that it never goes away. It's always there, just always there. It could be muddled, it could be like very tinted or something. It could happen somehow with our actions, sometimes even deliberate actions, which might turn out into not so good things. But still, the goodness is still there. This is what our belief. So, and I strongly believe in that.
Yeah. So for me, again, my takeaway here is what I'm hearing. For me, I'm hearing you say, the moment we become aware of our actions being not so good, that moment of awareness, it's where we now connect and own and exemplify and bring to the fore our goodness. The awareness of our badness is one of the mechanisms that connect us to our goodness. Right?
Yes, and mostly that person, like me, even if I'm just saying that okay, I did something really bad, that moment, that awareness of my actions are not so good, and realizing that it is a proof that yes, now my goodness is again in control. But
there
yes,
you go.
sometimes consciousness of that act comes later. That okay, oh no. And people like me, I'm just saying about myself, it could be like, oh, I'm cursing myself, oh, I did something really bad and I'm not a good person enough. I'm not good enough to trust myself. I'm not good enough to call myself, yes, I am 100% a good person and I'm deliberately, intentionally a good person. So that awareness is there, but because I'm saying myself, I'm considering my actions bad, but the consciousness needs to come, and mostly it comes from our friends, from other people, and who just show their trust and say that, okay, no, you are a good person, and show us different perspective.
So it says something really powerful. Isn't that awareness also conviction or the Holy Spirit? Oh, I lost your comment here. Let me go back to that. Hey, there we go. Isn't that awareness also conviction or the Holy Spirit? And Ryan says, yes, the inner self telling you that you did not approve of the action. Yeah. So so magical, this commentary here. And I want to connect this to one very profound thing, association management. In what you are saying, Venus, awareness of, let's just say badness here, or not so goodness, awareness of our badness. It's transformative because it is an acknowledgement of our goodness. The fact that we are aware that it is bad means we are good. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Okay. Now, I want to add this just a little bit, go sideways on it just slightly. Yes, that Holy Spirit that comes in, but I want to just make it in a more practical way.
Right.
Do not associate and default to the association of assuming that if we do bad actions, that proves that we are bad or sinners. Now, in the Western world, in the Christian culture, there's this default that we are born sinners, right?
Yeah, I don't like that.
Right. No. And we are saying, no, I'm sorry. I am being disobedient with a capital D, which is this profound Holy Spirit disobedience of claiming my independence of being, to say no. In this, sorry, you are just wrong. Whole world, I don't care if the whole world is saying this. I don't care if the Bible is saying this. I don't care what. But no, I'm not born a sinner. I am born good. And we are choosing to deliberately own that. And this is huge. So I want to just ask you on a little points of personal curiosity here, Beena, because we were bringing in different perspectives and the magic of our personal relationships to our upbringings. Now, for mine, it happens to be Christian, same with most of us here to some degree or another. But you've grown up in a Muslim culture and you are connected to it and you are practicing and you have a profound spiritual perspective of it and you have this ability to share it on an individual point. So individually for your connectivity, your experience with Islam, how does it relate to this concept of being born a sinner, the way it's kind of pushed out in Christianity?
Okay, not actually.
Anyway?
Yes, no, not actually, because my father, though my whole family, my father's side, my whole family, my forefathers were preachers, were teachers, and even some spiritual teachers also, and they were preaching Islam in different languages and all these things. But my father chose a different path because he deliberately make this that yes, I want to approach my religion. I want to approach any religion even, but with open heart, because now I want to choose my things. You know that there in Islam there are so many different sects like Wahhabis and other Sunnis and Shias and everyone. And people ask me that what is your sect, and I said no, I am just choosing. I will choose maybe someday, and I will not choose any. It could
Good
be
for you.
This is not something like okay, mandatory for me. You are okay. I have to be someone. No, I'm not. And as far as I am reading Quran, and I'm open to read Bible, and I'm open to read Gita also, and I'm reading. So I have no hesitation in that, because I have a belief that these all people, like Jesus, peace be upon him, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and even Ram and Krishna and everyone, they were aware people. They were enlightened. I'm not saying using the word enlightened, but yes, they were with the higher awareness. And they did something, and they tried their best to do something really good, to do something really good for this world. And they were just trying to make us aware. And yes, the way they were doing it was just because of the level of our consciousness and our awareness at that time. So there is no hesitation for me to accept any good idea from anyone. I'm openly using Buddha's code, and I'm openly using Ram and Krishna's code and Jesus, because this is what it is. For everyone, it was open. And for me, according to Islam, it was not actually the word sinners. The words are different. And I will quote exactly when I will read it again that what they say. But it is not sinners. No, not born sinners for human. It is a different word.
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. All right. So Beena, next time we chat.
There is something.
Oh, carry on.
But there are something about that. Okay, yes, humans are, because it is some kind of predefined ideas about humans in Islam also, that they are bound to search, or they are bound to work for and try for, to be something. So there is an idea.
Wow.
And because I will I will try to just encapsulate, and first I will take all the quotes from Quran, and then I will share that what exactly they are saying. But that's for I'm sure that not exactly the born sinner. The word is different.
Wow.
Because in
Interesting.
Arabic, I have to be really careful, because in Arabic is a very comprehensive language. And just for sword, I'm just using the famous example, that just for a sword, they have 27 words.
Yeah.
Just for the sword. So it is amazing. It's how people interpret Quran. So it is really amazing because it is very difficult for non-Arabic people to interpret into proper, appropriate manner. So I will try to collect, and then I will share with you.
Brilliant. We look forward to hearing that. We look forward to hearing it. I love your perspectives on it. You just always come up with things. And here's the key thing. It's not so much, yes, we do want to hear what your interpretation of it, what it says in itself, in a sort of a most objective sense possible that we can say. But also, I'm keen to hear your personal perspective on it, because that's always magical. Really, you bring a very different perspective, Beena. And again, in the range of our upbringings, Beena has a very unique and particular upbringing. And it's something quite magical and special when we look at this. And in terms of our noble ideal, like we said, when you look at Erica's model, that maybe, there are potentially flaws. Then your model, Beena, it's the one that, for me, is the one that has such an openness to it that I say, oh man, if ever I can choose a model, it's this model. And that is bringing us to our noble idea, this idea of choice. Your particular upbringing was one where choice was an option. Choice wasn't only an option, it was encouraged. And it was not just encouraged to choose my choices, but no, you were encouraged to choose your choices. Right, Beena?
Yes, absolutely. And it all comes from that, again, the single lesson Mama gave.
Share it again. I never get tired of hearing the story. So share this lesson again. I mean,
okay, I will share it later. But about any religion, it is so sad when anyone, like, mostly I'm saying that because I observe that in Muslims, when they read their Quran, it is like they feel so scared of to think about this, to even question anything. Why not? If something is written for you, it's your duty, it's your right. And it is like really is sad for me that they don't.
Huge point.
Just
right. Before you share your story of that lesson, I want to say what you just said. Take it into a great center column theme of the day here, which is the concept of appropriateness. In other words, if they could only make that shift to reading the Quran or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or whatever it is that you're reading, to read it with this concept of appropriateness in mind. Then you start to take what you read and you say, how is this appropriate for me, in my context, according to my goals, my ideals, my intents? And now it shifts into a whole different ball game. It just becomes really, really magically profound. So unfortunately, Beena's connection has dropped off, but she'll be back. So man, it's just so magical. And actually, I think that, we're kind of nicely coming up onto the hour here. As much as I would love to continue this all day, let's start kind of wrapping it up. So Ryan, I feel bubbling stuff in you there. So share, man, share.
Oh, I agree with Beena. And I think the most profound thing that I took away from what she said, for me, was the choice, having the option of the choice not to choose.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Say that again. Just repeat it exactly. just word for word. Just repeat it again.
What was profound for me was the option to choose not to choose.
What was profound for me, Beena, Ryan just shared his takeaway, and I'm kind of repeating it. Oh, you'll have to say it again.
Yeah, what was profound for me of what Beena said was the idea and the belief that I have the option to choose not to choose.
That I have the option to choose not to choose. I have the option to choose not to choose.
That is total flipping freedom right there.
Choose. Write it down. Write it in chat there for me, please. Somebody who can type quickly.
I'm going to type that out.
This is a big point.
Okay.
I have the option to choose
not to choose.
Why I like this? Because it's a very sophisticated point of discernment. It's that kind of conundrum thing that we are saying. It's like a little bit of a, it seems contradictory and inherently contradictory, but it isn't. The freedom to choose, not to choose. This
That's
is
perfect.
huge option, and we are talking about capital O option here. This
Hmm.
is a huge deal. This is a huge deal. Very profound. What a magical thing. So, man, I love that. I love that. All right, sure. Anything that's come up for you in the same way? Unless there's more, Ryan. Sorry, I don't mean to assume that was it.
It was just when she said there's all these different religions, and her father told her, well, I might not choose any of them.
Nice.
And just hearing her say, I could hear him saying that, and I'm like, wow, that's really neat that her dad would say something like that. She sounds like she has a really good dad.
Oh, her parents are truly noble souls. In every way you can think of it. It just, like I said, we have this entire spectrum of upbringings. And, Beena's one is just quite magical in that sense to say. Yeah. And it gives me great hope. And it's very encouraging to know that people like that actually do exist in the world. That
I know. I thought I was alone in that area. Because I'm kind of like a pagan Christian.
I love it.
A lot of my Christian friends and family members, they kind of disowned me when I separated when I was preaching things or saying things that they thought were contradictory to the Bible, which was an interesting thing was I was actually enhancing the Bible and making it
in your view, the way you were doing. I
was looking at it.
Which
was crazy. I'm like, I don't know. They thought I was like a devil or something. But anyways, Beena she said a lot of good stuff. And, we've always had this choice of good, evil, black, white, right, wrong. Even in the politics, you see it. Red, blue, Democrat, Republican. It's like, can't we just not choose any of them?
Where the colors? Exactly. That's always when it comes to opposites. I say, man, black, white, where the damn colors? I want color. I want the glory and magnificence of color. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And Ryan, what you just said made me think of what Sil has been saying over the last couple sessions, that there's always other options.
Right.
That, if we're seeing you have to choose black or white, blah, blah, blah. What if there are other colors out there that we don't even know exist?
Oh, yeah.
And the option that Ryan mentioned, the option of not choosing either black or white.
Yeah, that's
huge.
As well.
I have the option to choose, not to choose. And this is a huge option. And if you look at children, for instance, they don't realize that this option not to choose is an option. That's a powerful option.
Oh, yeah, this one does.
Right. But I mean, just if you look at default kids,
general.
my point, that's a huge deal because I see so many kids when they go back to their child. But it was horrible and it was terrible. You could have to choose the option to not choose. In other words, run away, go and complain to somebody or whatever. Choose to not deal with it, to not say, no, I refuse. I am not going to deal with this. No. So, very powerful, very powerful, very powerful.
I mean, what we're doing here, whatever this thing is, we call it the way of impeccability.
Right.
This is a big deal because in the world right now, people aren't even aware that they do have other options.
Yes.
And and what's interesting, you can make people aware that there are other options just by saying something.
Exactly.
Literally,
just by being. Awareness is contagious. We don't even have to say it. We can just be it, and it just has that effect. And that is a magical, especially when we get to that point from a deep ethical point, that we exude option.
But what I see is the words, we become the words. So by doing the way of impeccability and getting the power dictionary and those words into us, retrains the brain. It deprograms us and reprograms us to become the words which are alive in us. And now when we become the words, by doing the way of impeccability, we are being and then doing.
Yes. And the doing Right. The doing is the implementation of awareness. And when we have this awareness of the power of choice and option, and that is all we need to exude. In other words, you can just walk by this kid and they see, oh, here's somebody who they can choose whatever they want to. Wow. Okay. Wow. That means I can also.
Mm-hmm.
Right there, right there, right there. So it's not about specifics, because specifics can be maybe, maybe not for them. But that one thing that you have choice, that's all we need to communicate. That's the starting point, which is the same starting point as awareness. So in that story, as appropriateness, in the story of Biella, somebody could have said, what about choice? That could be an alternative for a starting point in that where you wake up and you want one concept in your head, choice. That could be it too, right? And then choice would automatically imply appropriate choice. Okay. Appropriateness by itself also implies choice, but now you're making the choice of context, the choice of goal and intent and all that. But that could be a very profound alternative to appropriateness, capital C, choice. Yeah. Option, in other words, that you have options, that idea. But yeah, very, very powerful, very exciting. Donna, before we wrap all this up here, any share?
She's muted, I think.
Yeah, she is. I'll just wait for you a little bit, Donna.
Sorry, I had you on mute. I apologize. My phone died, so I lost my visual. I'm just very, very grateful. That is it.
Oh, I love that. Appreciative also, I would assume.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
I make a distinction a little bit, me personally, between grateful and appreciation.
There is a difference.
There is a difference, right?
Absolutely.
So that's why I mention it. There's a difference.
Just full of,
appreciation, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's what I was hearing from you. That's why I mentioned it. I don't mean to be preemptive, but I'm hearing that deep appreciation of things. So, yeah. It's just different to that. Beena, any closing thoughts before we go?
Nothing. I was just
you're breaking up and it shows you on mute, so I'm assuming Beena's in the process of disconnecting. So when there's multiple because of a connection, it just kind of chucks off sometimes. So, all right, sorry to lose you, Beena, but it's all good. We'll just assume it was something magical. We'll just take your energy, just that sharing, and enough energy, and we can just extrapolate from that energy, and that's cool. That's cool. So magic to it. So. Weird sounds, a little bit of a musical accompaniment. So is that our playing out song? Like your closing song?
The grandfather clock.
That's what it is. That's right. I keep forgetting. Yes. It's the grandfather clock.
It's striking at the top of the hour, actually.
Brilliant. Yeah. Well, that's our cue right there. Erica, anything?
Everything has been really magical today. My thoughts are just swirling all around, and I think in addition to everything that everyone else has said, my biggest real takeaway that I'm really thinking about is that our job in life is to observe the world around us, see everything as a lesson, and in observing our surroundings and observing what's happening around us, that observation of the external reveals the internal.
Wow.
So our job is to reveal, through observation, to reveal ourselves and to reveal our truth, our realness, our intent, our goodness, to define what that means to us, that we do that by observing and experiencing what's happening around us.
Wow.
So, and that's really big, because I feel like I'm always thinking that in order to understand myself, or to really, reveal what I'm really thinking, what I'm really feeling, that has to be this like solely internal process. But that so much of that really comes from observing the external as well, and that we really discover ourselves in the external. So it doesn't have to be just this like really individual experience. It's about observing the whole as well.
Especially when we see others and they share their internal journey and figuring out.
Right.
That's the magic. It's not that they're giving us a conclusion. It is their journey, their struggle, they're figuring out. This is what's precious to us, not the conclusion. It's seeing how they figure it out,
Right.
that journey.
Right.
That's the magic. That is the magic because, that's a different way of doing it. That's exciting. Yeah, that's very exciting. So I put the last part of the chapter in there because I really feel like since we're about to disperse and we of course agree to meet again, to actually then to have this, the intent that's in that paragraph, that we're going to go and think about it. We're going to see it and apply it and your perspective shift on it and go into it. And then when we meet again, we are going to share how this particular chapter has an impact on us and hey, the difference and all of the takeaways, everything that we took from this awareness, this understanding, this discussion, how it's impacted and how it's making a difference and how we are utilizing it and applying it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be very keen to come back next time and then we can discuss and say, hey, okay, how did this really connect in our daily lives? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Oh, makes me so excited. All right. Brilliant. Thank you very much all. Thank you very much all. And I'm so pleased that Janelle got a spot to join and we'll see you next time. Brilliant.
Right.
Brilliant. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Bye, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye. Bye-bye. Brilliant. End meeting for all.